Welcome into the Friday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. I am Chad Withrow. If it looks lonely in studio today for me, it's because, well, quite frankly, it is. Jonathan Hutton, he's got a well-deserved day off. He'll be out on Monday as well. So I've asked someone to pitch in. In fact, someone that is very special. Not just very special to this show, very special to OutKick. And she has a rider in her contract that states, we must say every time, very special guest. She joins us weekly, but today she is a very special guest co-host. Charlie Arnault joins us from New York City, on with us right now. She's back co-hosting the show today, Charlie. I'll give you a round of applause as well. I always like opening with applause. Good job.
The beautiful intro that you just gave me. That was... Wow, I am one lucky special guest.
Very special, very special. We love having you on the show, Charlie. Appreciate you filling in today. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to start with something that's not necessarily fun. Tragedy happened with a Titan sub and Oceangate, and we know now the fate of that. But we started the show talking about this yesterday, and it's really got America talking about just the mindset that goes into deciding to spend $250,000 on doing something like this. And yesterday afternoon, we got a new report from Wall Street Journal that the U.S. Navy, with some of their detection equipment, was able to hear the implosion of the sub on Sunday and knew something was up, and in fact informed the search party, the search team, of that when it happened. A really sad and crazy story, Charlie, that I know you've got a lot of thoughts on it. I feel like we could go a number of directions, but we continue to get more and more intel about what went down, and it really is nuts.
It really is nuts. And yeah, when you talk about a whole different directions this could go in, you know, I think that there is a lot of new information that has come out that is a little bothersome if you're really paying attention to what's happening. One being that they got information that there was a big explosion heard on Sunday, which was the day that the submarine went missing. And as we know right now, this implosion of the submarine, which, listen, on one hand, I'm very thankful to hear about this because it means that these people, good chance is they weren't stuck on this sub for days on end, panic-stricken, wondering if they were ever going to be found, you know, counting down the hours worth of oxygen they had left. So on one hand, listen, if they died a very quick death, as you know, kind of horrible it is to think about, it's the best way you'd want them to go, right? You wouldn't want them to sit there struggling and panicking for days on end. But on the other hand, if they did in fact hear this explosion on Sunday, if you are well versed in the area of, you know, these nautical excursions and whatnot, you probably realize that's not a normal sound to hear. And they probably had a good idea at that point that there's probably some type of devastating occurrence that happened. And now you have to wonder, if you heard this on Sunday, why was that information not released sooner? Why would you delay it several days, having not only the entire nation worried about it, you know, but especially the families of those who were on board? And I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not the one who came up with this, but we do realize that yesterday there was some information that came out, some very damning information that came out. Once again this week, it's like the third time this week that damning information has come out about one person, that person being Hunter Biden. We did have the information that a text was released that he was in the room with his father when making some very shady business threats to a businessman in China. And there's now people saying that this information was withheld purposely so that this information could be overshadowed a bit on the day that it was released. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but unfortunately, we've gotten to a point where we would put nothing past the Bidens or the DOJ. So I don't know what to think, but as far as just the story in general, my God, more information also keeps coming out that is very concerning. Something that I find particularly to be of the ultimate concern is that years in the making, there was an employee of Oceangate, that's one of the company that launched this excursion. They actually raised safety concerns about the design of this specific submarine called the Titan and the company's protocol for testing its reliability. And that employee was fired by Oceangate because he aired his complaints to government regulators and Oceangate's management, and then they signed him for breach of contract. So listen, If I'm now knowing that I had a loved one who was on this submarine that was not built properly or should have never taken this expedition, now I'm furious that you allowed someone close to me to go on that and put themselves in a position of danger that now ended so tragically like it did. So I could go on for days. Should we spend all 3 hours talking about this?
We're gonna definitely spend the majority of this first segment talking about it because I'm very interested in this story also. And Charlie, we know that, as far as conspiracy theory goes, that's one I had not even heard yet. We're going to hear a lot more. There's going to be a lot of speculation about this. There's going to be books written about it. There's going to be Netflix docuseries about this Oceangate company, about this voyage, about everything. So there's going to be no shortage of information in the months and years to come about this story because it has captivated America with what went down and also the search for these people. I wanted to ask you, though, and kind of get into I don't know if morality is the right word, but just logically what civilians should be allowed to do and not allowed to do. Because the first time I heard this story, I understand there's a market for almost anything, but to charge $250,000 for someone to pay to really do something that only extremely experienced, trained people or scientists should be doing when it comes to deep sea, underwater searches like this and looking at things. Where do you come down on that? We have the ability now where you can pay enough money to go to space if you want. If you're Tom Cruise, you can go do anything stunt-wise, or you can get actors to fly in these jets for movies and do things like that, but they're not actually flying the jet. This, to me, is almost like it's the next level of where we could go with what your money can do for you. I don't really know where I fall on it. I guess people can spend their money however they want, but what do you think about the ethics and morality of Oceangate and this company even offering this up for people to experience?
Well, the joke here is, and maybe too soon, but these people paid $250,000 for a one-way ticket, right? They expected a round trip. So unfortunately, they got gypped out of their money. What I think about it is you should be able to spend your money exactly how you want. If you want to spend $1 million to go to the bottom of the ocean, if you want to spend your entire bank account and that of your family's going into space, that's up to you. That's what these families, or these, not the families, these companies thrive on, right? They need wealthy individuals. Otherwise, their company's strategy goes kaput. So I don't have any problem with how people want to spend their money. But if you're asking me, I don't care if I have all the money in the world. I'm not going to the bottom of the ocean. I'm not going into space. I want to stay right here where I can control what's going on around me. It's also free. It does not cost me a penny to sit on Earth. And I love the Titanic. I was one of the biggest, probably still am one of the biggest fans of the movie. I mean, it's kind of defines my childhood. If you, I remember, just as a little tangent, I remember when I was growing up and went and saw Titanic, it was such that because it wasn't digital yet, they had to have an intermission, roll half of the film. We all had to leave the theater while they loaded the next tape, and then we got to come in and watch the second half of the movie. So they basically sent us all to the back of the movie theater, which is, pretty hilarious to think about in, retrospect. But I think the Titanic is fascinating. There's so many facets of it that are fascinating, especially given the tie into now this submarine crash. It's almost like, I don't know, it feels very creepy. You know what I mean? You're going to look at the shipwreck of a ship that was, quote, unsinkable. And now they're being taken out on the submarine that was supposed to be built to the highest of standards. Yet this had its horrific ending as well. But I will let the researchers do their job. Last night, actually, on Sean Hannity's show, he had one of the people, the leading experts in these type of excursions, who's gone down to look at the Titanic wreckage, 30 plus times without any issues. I mean, a lot of people, there's never been an issue like this going to look at the Titanic wreckage. So I think we leave it to the experts. We don't try to make this something that should be, I don't know, you could just be anyone and go. But then again, I'm not running these companies and I'm not looking for $250,000 a pop. So, I guess I'm not the one to ask for it. I just know that I will not be partaking.
Well, you brought up the movie Titanic, which is a personal favorite of mine, and I think a lot of people. James Cameron, of course, the director of that movie, and he got into that movie because he is obsessed with Titanic, and he has been down and he viewed the wreckage from over 2 miles underneath the ocean surface many times, maybe more than anyone else.
Mhm.
Charlie, he's weighed in on this also and essentially said that many experts in the field, he talked about the community of people who go and tour the wreckage of Titanic, warned Oceangate that this is not safe for civilians, that what they're trying to do by charging people to go is unsafe, and this would eventually happen. Now, the Oceangate responded and said, well, we had safety in mind first and foremost every time, and went to great lengths to try to ensure safety for all of our passengers. But now you've got James Cameron, who's a bit of a nut also, in a good way. His craziness has inspired a lot of good art, like Terminator and Aliens and other movies like that. Titanic also, Avatar. But he's a guy obsessed with Titanic that's been down there a lot and said, maybe this wasn't the safest way to do it. I think in hindsight and retrospect, we can say, yeah, with the tragedy that happened, that's the case. But this wasn't the first time they went down there. This is something that happened many times before, right, with no big issues.
Yeah, but it's not the question of, or is this an expedition that's safe enough to go down with civilians? That's not where the safety issue is being raised. The issue is being raised that there were safety concerns about this particular vessel for years now. They worry that the approach to the way it was built, the materials that they used, I heard some expert refer to it as, off the shelf type of products. These are products, when you think about the risk that you're putting people in and the immense amount of pressure that these submarines have to withstand to go down as many miles. And it's, they talk about the water outside of the submarine, like it's so cold that it's literally ice. So the pressure that it has to withstand is so great that it needs to be made with the highest levels of care and expertise. And people said that this particular vessel, the Titan, was not up to standards. And they ignored those concerns. And now look what happened. So I can guarantee you there's going to be some major lawsuits in the near future.
Yeah, and I think the fact that a lot of people that are just die hard, they have to get the thrill, they have to do it. The people who spend money to go into space on SpaceX, the people that spend the money with Oceangate to do it, if they see one person or one group that's done it safely, that's all the assurance they need to do it. They don't necessarily need to see it time and time again, hundreds or thousands of voyages before they sign up for it because they're so motivated to get it done. That $250,000 cost, that proves your motivation if you're going to go do this. So I'm with you on that. There's a lot of fascinating aspects of this that we can discuss. In working in media also, Charlie, there's some fascinating aspects of our jobs and doing our job. And if you're interviewing someone or you're presenting something, there are times where you have to bring up the uncomfortable or mention a fact that may not be the best for the subject of the interview or who you're talking about. This happened last night at the NBA draft when Malika Andrews gets ripped by almost all of Twitter for simply stating facts and bringing up the controversy surrounding Brandon Miller when he's drafted number 2 overall by the Charlotte Hornets. Charlie, you've been in this position before where you're presenting something. She's just doing her job. I don't think she did anything out of the ordinary, but yet people are ripping her because she was, quote unquote, bringing someone down in their moment of joy. What are your thoughts on this?
I can't say that I fault Malika for anything that she did. That's right. As a journalist, you are expected to report the facts, which is hilarious because most of the journalists in our country don't do that anymore. But anyways, I see nothing wrong with what she did. I think even in the environment and situation in which she did, I understand that this is a night to celebrate and they don't need people to be reminded of the flaws of players from the past. I get it. But if this is what ESPN wanted her to report on, then she was doing her job. I think that if she went off script and decided, hey, this wasn't expected of me, but I'm going to take it upon myself to drudge up this, what I would say is probably a big black mark on his legacy and, potentially being the accessory to a crime, which he was never charged or convicted of. But, technically, if you look at the facts, that could have been the case and things played out a different way, then I think she's in the wrong. But, it is what it is. I just think when it comes down to it, teams didn't care. They still don't care. They won't care. This is going to be a non-story tomorrow. I think people are, the thing is people are always looking to be mad about something. So it's not surprising that they would find this situation and try to turn it into a negative, because that's what people do these days.
And you got to treat everyone like they're new to it, right? I mean, when you're presenting something, there's a balance between, hey, here's how a draft works, and these teams that are worse get to draft higher, and a lottery happen, and when they draft them, this is what happens to the player. You assume that someone watching your program knows that part of it, but you also have to go into the assumption that for some NBA fans that maybe don't follow college basketball, maybe you're informing them for the first time about the Alabama basketball murder and what happened with Brandon Miller, right? I mean, there are plenty of people who watch things that wouldn't know that she's just doing her job informing her audience.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. If you're a big basketball fan, especially if you are a honed-in Alabama fan and you did not know about this, then you were living under a complete rock. And I have to wonder,
well, of course, I'm saying everyone tuning in, watching the NBA draft, they're not all big Alabama fans or college basketball fans. So you have to assume when I set up a story on here, I've got to sometimes say the story a little bit, just under the assumption not everyone knows what we're talking about. Even though, Charlie, clearly you as a very special guest, you know all the stories, so do I. But we have to treat the audience, right? Like, hey, maybe they don't know it.
Listen, I think if there was 5 other players in the draft who were expected to go in the first round, because that's where all of the publicity is focused on, right? You don't get as much coverage on the second and the third rounds because people aren't as excited about those players. But let's just say hypothetically, which, crossing my fingers, there's never the situation where there's 4 players that got into some trouble on the level of this, like Brandon Miller, in the course of the regular season leading up to this draft.
I got to ask, DJ, Dustin Johnson, feels like to me that a guy that's not serious enough to go out and win on the last couple days. That's how he feels to me. I'm not saying I'm right, but, Speed feels to me like a guy that's going to crap the bed late.
Yeah, he's won the U.S. Open and he's won the Masters, so that kind of crap to the bed that kind of goes out the window.
Not really. Okay. A couple of years ago, who cares? I mean, this is now. This is after he just signed a massive deal. We've seen it in every single sport. Guys sign a massive deal and they don't play nearly as well.
Yeah,
Johnson,
it really is affecting.
Just what I've seen.
Well, it's really affecting Brooks Koepka.
I'm not saying everybody. I said Jesus Christ. God damn. I said we've seen it before. I didn't say every freaking guy. What's wrong? Are we going to have a conversation or are you just going to be an idiot? Which one are you going to be?
No, we're having a conversation.
I'll go either way. I'll go any way you want to go. You want to be an idiot? I can be an idiot. You want to be a human being? We can have a conversation. Which would you like to do?
Well, Dan, I just like to sometimes set the record straight that you can't say when guys get the big money, they don't play well.
Hold on. Then set it straight to me. Set it straight to me what I just said. In some sports, when guys get big money, they don't play well. Some guys, some sports. So set that straight to me.
Give me an example, Dan.
Oh, I'll give you a ton of examples. Every NBA guy, Duncan Robinson was in the last year of his contract. All of a sudden, he played great, got paid $92 million. Hadn't played worth a damn. Julius Randle played great last year of contract. Now he's in another one. Hadn't played great. Different guys do different things. Jalen Brunson gets a big contract, plays great. There's different examples. All I simply said was that Dustin Johnson hasn't, in my opinion, my feel for it. I don't give a shit what he did 10 years ago or 5 years ago. I'm talking about now. I mean, all you got to do is respond to that and say, hey, I'm wrong.
You're wrong. Damn. So here's the deal with the live guys. Here's the deal with the live guys, which is really tricky. This is really, really tricky. So since Dustin Johnson went to live, he's been Liv's best player. Now, you could say that is what it is. You could say,
has he not?
I'm sorry?
Koepka has been.
No. I mean, on the live tour, Dan.
Oh,
I'm not so that's kind of my point. Just give me 20 seconds to explain here. So
I'll give
Dustin
you 2
Johnson
minutes.
Dustin Johnson got the big bag. He went to Live. On the Live tour, when they play every 2-3 weeks, Dustin Johnson's been their best player. Dustin Johnson has dominated the Live tour. Now, he's had a couple chances when he's come to the majors where Koepka has obviously really shined, second at the Masters and then wins the PGA Championship. DJ in those remote spots, the couple majors he's played, has not played particularly well. But Dustin Johnson's golf game, which is my job to handicap on who's going to play well, Dustin Johnson's playing good golf. Dustin Johnson's arguably the best Live golfer as far as if you just take strokes gained on the Live tour. So every player in golf is choked. The guy with the most second place finishes at major championships is Jack Nicklaus.
We're back on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton out today, back on Tuesday. Charlie Arnault, our very special guest co-host today and Monday on the program. And we've got a great guest with us right now, our buddy, Danny Kanell, former Florida State quarterback great, currently with CBS college football analyst, also a Sirius XM host, on with us right now. Danny, looking great as always, man. Appreciate you hopping on with us.
What's up, Chad? How's it going? It's summer. It's a little slow. I got the request and I was like, I don't know. It's summer. There's not a lot of topics. Then I heard the newest star of OutKick and Fox News was co-hosting. No offense to Hut. When I heard Charlie was on, I was like, I'm in.
Yes.
I'm done.
Yeah, we usually just dangle that carrot out there for all of our guests. Like, did you know, by the way, that Hutton's out and Charlie's in, or I'm out and Charlie, and then, they always sign up to come on and be a guest with us. So I'm glad you took the carrot also right there, Danny. I'm about to serve you up a big old fat carrot right now because I know you're going to have an opinion and a hot take on this one. Nick Saban goes on with Joel Klatt, and while I think and I agree with about 90% of what Nick Saban says in regards to what's best for college football, I also laugh because every time he talks about what's best for college football is also very self-serving because it's always what's best for Nick Saban and Alabama as well. And this past week, he tells Joel Klatt that essentially, I want to get the best teams in. It shouldn't just be about losses or how many losses you have. And when I saw that my Alabama team would have been favored over 3 of the 4 playoff teams last year, I'm thinking to myself, well, why are we not in the playoff? Which is hysterical to me that now you have a coach who complains about Vegas point spreads and lines and predictions from analysts, touting a Vegas point spread as a reason why his team should be in the college football playoff. Danny, your thoughts?
Chad, I was flabbergasted. This is not the first time. If you remember, halftime of the Big Ten championship game, he goes on Fox, which is kind of unusual in itself because, ESPN owns the SEC and that's an unusual spot for him to be. And he was campaigning for his team to get in the playoff. And he referenced the same thing. He referenced the lines and said, we'd be favored against TCU. We'd be favored against these other teams. And he got skewered for it then, myself included. I called him out. I said, wait a second, we can't be referencing those. If we're gonna base the selection of the 4 teams just on the Vegas lines, then why play the regular season if we're just going to go off of who, is favored by some algorithm that comes up by some computer model? So I hated it at the time. I'm surprised he went back to it, Chad, to be honest with you, because of the reaction from the first time around, because I thought it was a bad look then. I think it's a worse look now. And I think it just opens up the door again to have people to remind Nick Saban that they were a 7-point favorite against Tennessee and lost. They were a 13.5-point favorite against LSU at home and lost. They were almost a 21-point favorite against Texas, barely dodged that one, got out with a win, but didn't cover. So it lets us rehash the season, which was by all accounts a failure, instead of focusing on, man, they look dominant against Kansas State in their bowl game. And they didn't overlook a bowl team. you're focusing on the wrong things, but it is one of a few reasons, Chad, why I think that we're seeing the cracks in the foundation of the Alabama dynasty. Like, I think it's coming to a close. Does it mean they can't make the playoffs again, or maybe they won't win another championship?
Big statement.
No. Yeah, but I think this is the beginning of the end. And you're seeing Nick Saban is worried about that too.
Well, I think the biggest part of maybe the beginning of the end is what his former protege, Kirby Smart, is doing with back-to-back national championships. And now, starting next year, we're going to get to see Alabama host Georgia in a game with that new SEC schedule. What did you make about the SEC's plan to sort of bridge the gap before they can get a new television contract done of going with the 8 conference games plus the 1 Power 5 non-conference game for each team? And I think your alma mater probably has something to do with that, with Florida and others arguing, hey, we play Florida State every year. South Carolina saying we play Clemson every year. Kentucky saying we play Louisville. Make some of these other teams play another Power 5 opponent outside the SEC.
I hate it. I think everyone hates it, but I understand it. The SEC and Greg Sankey is always going to do what's best for the SEC and to put to get the most money, but also to get the most teams in the playoff, to have the most bowl eligible teams, to have the best perception around college football. And when you can schedule a cupcake in there as one of those 4 non-conference and sometimes 2 and even 3, then it boosts everybody in the conference. And it's also benefited the ACC. Like, it's helped them too. There's a reason why the ACC and the SEC have had the most teams in the playoff since the beginning of the college, football playoff era, because they both have only played 8 conference games. I totally understand the pushback, because I do think it's a valid point. Hey, we do have this gauntlet. We do go through it, but the Big Ten does it. The Pac-12 does it. The Big 12 does it. Other conferences are doing it as well. And it's hurt them, which I think is what Greg Sankey's looked at. Well, look at the Pac-12. They keep cannibalizing their own. They keep on keeping each other out of the playoffs, because you see a conference champ with a 10-2 record and goes on, 11-2, and they get left out of the playoff discussion. That's what the SEC sees. And they're like, why would we beat each other up? It gives us less opportunity in the postseason. So until we get that expanded, and we start to see what that shapes up, and until they get more pressure and more financial reward from the ESPN deal, they're going to say, you know what, we're going to keep doing the things the way we have. I do think we get to 9 games sooner than later, and I think it's the best thing for college football.
Charlie, you got something? I think she may have frozen up.
Yeah.
Hey, so Charlie, you back with us?
Oh, mine froze up. I thought you guys were freezing up. I thought I was all good.
It's usually us that's screwing up, but this time it was your computer that froze up.
Usually things aren't my fault. That's the thing.
Exactly. It's always someone else's fault.
Can I say something real quick? Because I actually, you guys popped up in my Twitter feed, right? Was my radio show in it. So I watched your first segment. I've been enthralled with the submarine story as well. I think you guys left out one detail. Maybe you didn't. Maybe I missed it.
No,
but,
please.
Like, because I'm with you guys. I'm kind of like, who would want to spend that much money to go down there to put your life at risk? I could maybe buy into it if once you got down there, you stayed in a hotel and you got to go out and scuba and you could explore and you could see things. But to go down in essentially what was your coffin and only have a window that's a foot wide, that to me was the thing that everyone's overlooking. You don't even get to really experience anything except you see it in the window. You can watch better on a TV, in a virtual reality from a camera.
Like National Geographic, just why?
Yeah,
exactly.
I can see it on my computer. And if you were going to a James Bond supervillain underwater, laboratory, and you could stay there for the night, I could see the appeal of that. But going in that small little submersible.
That's actually such a good point. And actually, now that we're back here, one more detail I'd like to add in. There's no bathroom on board, right?
Yeah.
So what if you make the mistake of not releasing, your fluids before you go down, and then you're like, oh my, and then you can't even enjoy it because you have to pee so bad.
Right. Apparently they just did what every family does on a road trip for your kids, just hand them the empty Gatorade bottle or Coke bottle and say, here you go. Apparently that must be the model, the method that they use, because a lot of things on this sub, it was not very well planned out.
Hopefully
Sorry for the sidetrack.
Yeah, hopefully no lemon lime Gatorade fans on that submersible.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question. Getting back to the landscape of college sports, you probably heard recently North Carolina's head football coach Mac Brown. He had some predictions for maybe the direction that the college football landscape heads in. He actually said on the Paul Feinbaum show that he thought student athletes were going to become more like employees of the university, where they're actually subjected to more of what is considered a salary cap in order to even out the playing field, since we're seeing so many people or athletes transferring to go to different schools because they see the off the field opportunities being just as great as the on the field. What's your thoughts as far as that goes?
So Charlie, I love Mac. He's a guy I worked with at ESPN. We shared a studio together for a year. He recruited me out of high school when he was at North Carolina the first time around. He's like the unofficial, like, you know how a fraternity has a godfather? The coaching community is very much like a fraternity, and he's the godfather. Like, everyone looks up to Mac Brown. So it's similar to Nick Saban. When he speaks, people listen. When I hear coaches, and he's not the only one that says this, to me, it's amazing how far we've come so fast in the opinions of coaches on getting paid and pay for play, and they're all on board with NIL. 5 years ago, if you would have asked any coach about paying players, they all would have said, it's the worst thing ever. There's no way we can pay the players. You know, we just can't do this. Then we say, and that they would have said the same thing about NIL. But now, and here's the key point, because they have to, they've bought in. And this is basically a survival mode for the coaches, because for the existence of the sport, the courts have ruled against the old model of amateurism. And so now the coaches are quickly getting on board, which I do think is smart. And they're realizing, okay, NIL was a step in the right direction. And I think a lot of coaches, and I actually thought this too, thought NIL was a good compromise. We don't want these players to be employees, but we think it makes sense for them to be able to sign an endorsement deal. If there's a Heisman Trophy winner to do a Heisman House commercial, why wouldn't we let him do that? You know, if there's a guy who's a defensive player of the year, why wouldn't we let him have a car at the local car dealership? Like, that makes sense. What the coaches, and I don't think a lot of people anticipated, was the direction we've gone now, where NIL is a sham. It is more pay for play. And you're seeing high schoolers sign $8 million deals to go play, and they haven't built any brand. They haven't had any success. And so this has become very unstructured. It's wild. They don't have any control. And if you've ever worked with a college football coach, or any coach really, they want to control the controllables. There's nothing to control. They can't, because a player can leave anytime he wants. They don't sign a contract that's long-term. So they basically have no idea what their roster is going to look like year to year. So all of a sudden, quickly, they have come around on the employee relationship, you know, that employee model that is coming. And it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. Brett Kavanaugh has, you know, on the record in the Alston ruling said, this is the biggest monopoly we've seen. You cannot have an unpaid workforce. So it's going to happen. The only thing that I'm scared of is they do want, like, Congress to get involved. And if somebody doesn't take the bull by the horns and come up with a model of their own, Congress will get involved. And I don't know if that's the best idea, especially considering what our politicians have done in other aspects. So it's coming, and coaches are trying to get on board with it. I think so that it happens sooner rather than later, because they hate the current environment, which is just players running amok and signing deals and leaving. And there's going to be some lawsuits from players not getting paid on NIL money. It's just a complete mess in the college landscape right now.
Yeah, I can only imagine the distractions it causes. I mean, the whole point of being an athlete is it teaches you, because I know, myself being an athlete, there's a lot of, it really lays the groundwork to have like a very disciplined lifestyle, to have good work ethic, to work as a team. And now it feels like, instead of having that team atmosphere, everyone's really out for themselves. And that's the opposite of what you want to have in college sports, and especially the kind of lessons you want to instill in these young athletes before some of them go off to play professionally.
Charlie, you make a great point. And I think it was even happened pre-NIL, and I don't know if it's a generational thing, but teams have always been about the team, right? It's always been like, when I was at Florida State, when I went there, Coach Bowden, who's a legendary coach, had a shirt and it said, this was at a time when you could preach as a head coach. he was more of a preacher than a head coach. He had shirts made up and it said God in big letters. It said team. And then it said me in the smallest letters in the bottom of the shirt. And the message was, get right with God. He's your first priority. Then it's your team. And then it's you are last. And we've flip-flopped that in so many ways, where now everyone is out for themselves. How do I get my payday? How do I secure the bag? How do I go ahead? And if I'm not playing, I need to find somewhere where I can play, as opposed to, you know what? My role on this team this year may not be what's best for me, but it's going to help the team. And I'm going to get developed over time. And it's not only the players, it comes in with the coaches too, because there's so much money at stake. It has really impacted, I think, athletics everywhere in a negative way, where everyone is out for themselves. And what makes me sad about football is the greatest team sport I think we've ever seen. And it's infected the game like a cancer, this selfishness that's crept in over the last 10 to 20 years.
Danny Cannell, one of the very best college football analysts for CBS, Sirius XM host. Danny, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it, man. Always great talking some ball with you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Danny,
Chad.
thank you so much. And thanks for weighing in on the submarine disaster. I liked hearing your insights.
I couldn't let that go by. Nice talking to you, Charlie. We'll see you, Chad.
Absolutely, Danny. A little college football talk, a little Oceangate talk, a little fashion talk. We'll become fashionistas when we come back. Grady Dick, what in the hell was he wearing? That's what everyone wants to know. We'll break it down. We'll also discuss what are some of these teams that these prospects are coming from in the NBA draft. Who cares? Should we care? Who knows? We'll find out. We'll ask all the important questions when we come back. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
What is your primary complaint?
When people pop their knuckles.
Primary complaint is chewing with your mouth open. Yuck.
I would say when you're getting off an airplane and people in the back try and sprint to the front, especially like late at night, like you don't have a connecting flight, just wait like everybody else. I'd say that's fine.
Small portions, big bill. Yeah, if the quality's good, it's okay. But if there's small portions and I got a big fat bill, not a thing, you know.
Sun Country Airlines canceling our flight less than 8 hours before we're supposed to leave.
I've never even heard of Sun Country Airlines in my life.
Velcro.
Velcro? Why? What about it?
The sound.
Oh, like nails on a chalkboard for you.
I'm a kindergarten teacher, and to hear that Velcro.
Time to teach them how to tie their shoes.
When they don't cross the road when no cars are driving.
They're just waiting for the light?
Yeah, like a normal person.
Yeah, you got to break the rules a little bit.
We're right from New York City. We know how to walk.
Really upset. Ben Jones is no longer with the Titans, but more importantly, I'm upset the Titans didn't draft a wide receiver in the top 2 rounds. We need receivers, guys. Come on, tighten up.
So what do you think about Will Levis? Was that a good move or a bad move?
Ooh, that's a tough call. Time will tell. But I think we needed a receiver more.
Smack their gum, chew with their mouth open and smack their gum.
Okay.
That with chips and everything else, yeah.
Liars.
Liars, okay. Has anyone lied to you recently?
No.
Have you lied?
Always.
One of the biggest pet peeves is not knowing your manners. Like, not having respect or thank you, sir, ma'am.
My biggest pet peeve is when you don't push your chair in after you leave a table. That's my biggest pet peeve. Really is.
So like when people want to speak to you and they're like you to me, but they start walking out of the other room into different rooms and they keep talking like, I am supposed to understand. I can't hardly understand people when their back is turned to me and when they're not talking right at me. So when you're getting into different rooms and you keep talking like, yeah, blah, 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 it must be my dog talking to me.
There's a crane over every building. There's a truck.
There's a hole, something. Yeah. So let's get the streets fixed and get those things done. Time's wasted. Let's go.
A dirty house.
Dirty house. Like, are you a shoes off at the front door kind of guy?
Front, yes, ma'am.
I hate it when centre backs don't bat the odd one. Do you know,
What?
when the centre backs go up to try and catch the ball all the time, they should back the odd one.
You know, siblings are pet peeves, you know, to be honest with you. You know, just looking at him, he's a pet peeve.
I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I like to get along with others. I kind of leave people in their place. When people don't follow the social construct, it really upsets me. Example, when you stand up on an airplane, right when it lands, and then try to push past people down the line. You know what orders you're supposed to go in. That's the part of the social contract. When you're grocery shopping and you have your cart and you don't take it back to the cart delivery spot, but you just leave it by there beside the parking spot, taking up someone else's spot, violating the social contract. Do what you're supposed to. Yeah, do your civic duty. Follow through with what your parents told you to do.
We're back. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, but no Hutton today. I'm Withrow. And we've got Arnault with us. Very special guest, Charlie Arnault, joining us from New York City right now. And it's great that we have Charlie on today because in this segment, we want to get into a little bit of fashion. And let's face it, she probably knows a lot more about fashion than I know about fashion. So I have to ask the question, Charlie, in seeing the outfit that we're going to show that Grady Dick wore last night, I guess these are like sequins and a lot of sparkle and a lot of shoulder pad to go with this, with the matching undershirt, turtleneck, with the jacket. What on earth is happening in this photo? What is Grady Dick thinking?
I mean, this is a Toto. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. Look, I love it. I think it's great. You want to know why? I like an outfit that has a theme. Like, would I want my date to wear this out to dinner? No, unless we were going to like a big gala or something like fancy, then maybe, you know. But yeah, no, I like that there's a theme. He's a Kansas boy, so I think it makes sense. And he's representing his hometown and he's making a statement. I mean, I was actually just laughing because, wow, the draft looks have come such a long way since the days of the baggy suits. You remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
The 2003 draft with LeBron James,
like
they're all in the huge suits.
Yeah, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh. I mean, it's so funny. I love now when you see a guy. It was funny the other day, actually. Kevin O'Leary was on Hannity, and I had posted a photo with him because I got it after the show. And his pants, you know, people are like, wait a second, isn't he like worth so much money? Why doesn't he get his suit pants tailored? Well, he looks like he was in the 2003 draft. But that's how it was, you know, that was the style. But now everything's much more tailored, much more custom. So I always enjoy the draft outfits. It's truly one of my, actually, you know what? I'm just going to be straight up. It is my favorite thing about the NBA draft because I don't even like the NBA that much anymore because I find it to be a complete sham.
Well, he looks like he's about to try to pull off a triple axel in his routine in figure skating on Blades of Glory. When you look at the outfit, and just his overall look too, he looks like a figure skater.
You're right. His
in the
hair,
face
his
also.
face.
Yes.
And he's got like that Swedish look.
Yes, he looks very Scandinavian with the look, the hair. Looks a little bit like Davey Hudson with the hair also. We'll see Davey and hear from him a little bit later. But definitely looks like a figure skater. And you're spot on right. So like the early 2000s, that was my college era. So you talked about the 2003 NBA draft. Charlie, was there a worse time for really both men's and women's fashion than the early 2000s? Like that was a pretty rough time for fashion, especially for men.
Yeah, but Chad, here's what you don't, okay, for men, yes. But here's what you don't understand for women. While I look back on so many of the fashion choices I made during that era, now I see the Gen Zers running around and they are acting like it was their idea. And I'm like, excuse me, I ran so you could walk. Okay, don't you dare try to take this from me. Okay. I was wearing that. That was a staple from Hollister and Abercrombie back in the day. Okay. You didn't just come up with this. But yeah, fashion is so funny because it is so cyclical. And we're probably going to see these baggy pants from 2003 make a comeback in a few years from now. And people are going to be like, oh my goodness, these are awesome. It's like, it didn't do that. But yeah, you know what I remember the most? And I'm going to ask if you were guilty of this.
I probably was. Go ahead.
Did you wear the double popped collars?
No, I feel like that was a little bit before my time. That was maybe like mid to late 80s. So I never went with a double pop collar.
What are you talking about?
So you're telling me it came back in the 2000s?
Oh my gosh, yeah. You don't remember like the Hollister and Abercrombie, like where you take the two different
yeah. I'm seeing like a bro with like really big hair that's kind of going up, styled up, and then they're wearing it with the double pop collars. And now I get where you're going. And I did not do that. No, I was not guilty of this.
I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful because I look back on those days. I mean, even girls were doing it for a while. And you'd have the longer tank top coming out of the collared shirts with the jean skirt and the Ugg boots.
Yes. Mom jeans are back, right? Aren't mom jeans kind of a thing now?
Mom jeans are back. And actually, I'm thankful for that because, when you go to town on some pizza afterwards, you don't have to worry about it. You can just let it all relax. Yeah. The more
moms had it figured out years ago, right? Like there was a practical reason for this and the moms had it figured out with these jeans.
Yeah, exactly. So it's great. I think in some regards, I'm totally appreciative of these comebacks we're witnessing.
Now, let me ask you this, though, in regards to Grady Dick in this outfit. And I'll say this for any wild, crazy outfit. And you're right. They are much more tailored, form-fitting for men with their suits they're wearing now and outfits at all of these big events, NFL draft, NBA draft, you name it. But could anyone that's not a first-round NBA lottery pick really pull off this look? I think a part of the appeal is, Charlie, that you have some status, you're about to make a lot of money, you've got some celebrity to you. Like if you're just some dude walking around and you go out to, even if it's a nice gala, and you show up in this, I don't think it's as well received. I think part of the appeal of wearing something like this and getting away with it is you are a celebrity athlete or a celebrity in some way. Tell me I'm wrong with that.
Okay, you're not wrong. There's an exact, when you say these things, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Who is the athlete? I mean, he did it a few times walking. One of the big also highlights of the NBA games is not the game itself, but watching the players walk into the arenas in their various, even NFL players as well, like getting off the plane onto the tarmac. You see them in their, whatever fashion choices that they decide to make. But there was one NBA player who had a sweater whose sleeves extended like a good 2 feet past his hand.
Yes. Was it Russell Westbrook?
No, it wasn't Russell Westbrook. It was, oh my gosh, I can't remember.
I know exactly. I can see the look right now and I cannot think of the player.
He played for the Lakers. Oh
sure?
God.
Was it, it wasn't LeBron. You sure it wasn't Russell Westbrook when he was on the Lakers?
Yeah, you're right. It was Lakers though. It wasn't him though.
Was it Russell?
Oh man. Who was it? I don't think.
Anyway, we'll find it. We've got our crack research team on it right now. We're gonna figure that out.
We'll find out. But here's the thing: if I ever saw a regular man walking down the street in that sweater, I would absolutely laugh at him and be like, "What the hell are you doing?"
And say you're
look like
homeless,
moron.
right? You probably think they're homeless.
But on this guy, I'm like, "Oh, word. Okay, I can get behind this."
And it again, look, I'm guilty of this too. I'm thinking top NBA draft pick, hot. Any other guy, not. If you're going to try to pull this outfit off.
Yeah.
One way or
absolutely.
the other. Kyle Kuzma was the player that wore the outfit, is what we're being told.
Kyle Kuzma, yes, that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Brooke found that for us. Thank you, Brooke, for finding that. So Kyle Kuzma was the player who was guilty of that. We had twins make NBA history last night as first-round picks. Back-to-back picks. Amen and Asar Thompson were drafted. And this is what jumps out to me about this story, Charlie, is if you didn't know who they were, don't feel bad because not many people did because they played for something called the City Reapers in the Overtime Elite League. This is what baffles me about the NBA draft and why I'm not nearly as into it as I once was because for so long you got to know guys playing college basketball, even if only for a year or two. You got to know them before they went to the draft. Now we have the City Reapers, the G League Ignite, the European and international influence has been going on for a while, but multiple players from France, Serbia, New Zealand, Turkey, all drafted last night. When I'm going through that top 15, it's sad how few players I recognized or know, and even some of them that just had a flash in the pan, had a 1 minute of success in college for a year that were drafted high in this draft.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, especially like you mentioned there's players all over the board. I mean, the other day I was in the Fox Business Studio and Jordan Haber was there, and he didn't even ever play basketball. And he was entering the draft because he found a loophole. And I was like, well, this is what we're doing now. All right, got it. The draft can no longer be taken too seriously. But you know what? I don't know. Like I said, the draft to me already has lost a lot of its luster because the NBA has lost some of its luster for me. So I didn't really watch. Well, I didn't watch a minute of the draft last night. I'm just going to be totally honest with you.
Does Derek Jeter still have some luster for you because he's making his Fox broadcasting debut tomorrow?
Derek Jeter is
in
a
London.
legend. He's still got some luster for me.
Yeah. So I think having watched the docuseries about him and seeing him more on camera, it's always hit or miss with these guys in media because you can be a charismatic player. I think of Joe Montana as an example. You know, good-looking, charismatic guy, leader of men as quarterback for the 49ers, and then terrible as a television personality when he went and did TV. So it can be hit or miss with guys, but Jeter's one of those that he has such a level of gravitas every time you see him as the captain that I think it's just bound to work. And he's going to be on the call tomorrow for the London series, Cardinals-Cubs, 1:10 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. He'll be on with his old buddy A-Rod, Kevin Burkhardt, and David Ortiz.
Oh, that'll be so fun.
I think it's going to be good, Charlie, don't you?
Imagine the most fun is going to be what we don't have access to, the commercial breaks.
Yeah.
You know, what they're probably going to be talking about and the jokes they're going to be, talking about and all that is going to be so entertaining. But of course, we don't have access to that. But listen, Derek Jeter is one of those guys where, like you said, so much gravitas. He's got a ton of confidence. He's got so many accomplishments and accolades under his belt that I think anything that comes out of his mouth, even the least interesting thing he could say would be the most interesting thing a traditional broadcaster could say. So I'm really excited to see what's in store for him. And I also think he's being surrounded by an all-star team who's going to pull the best out of him. And I think that's another thing is you can have an athlete who's maybe not so trained or accomplished or seasoned in the broadcasting booth, put them around the right people, put good energy into the space, and they will be a champ. It's not what you expect out of them on day one. Sometimes it's what you get out of them more in the long run. So I don't see any issues happening with Derek Jeter, though.
So I'm a believer in story over stat. I'm a believer in that on this show. I'm a believer in that when I'm watching a game. Stats can be helpful in terms of painting the outsides of a picture when you're talking about a game or calling a game. But I love the personal story element of any game broadcast. I much prefer that. I feel like if Jeter opens up, and A-Rod's been very good about this in his broadcast career, that when they open up and start telling stories, or just not even stories, hey, here's what I'd be thinking on this 2-1 count against a guy who throws a lot of curveballs. When they can give you some insight into the mind of a player, to me that always is so much more entertaining and better and helps during a broadcast than someone who's just laying out stats over and over.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that's why, for example, the Manning simulcast works so well on ESPN.
Yes.
Because a lot of times people are watching these games, and it's fun to hear the play-by-play. But a lot of times you have casual fans who are tuning into the game just because it's a fun way to spend the time. But really they're like, drinking a few drinks, talking to their friends also on the side. So to be able to then watch the game and then have the storytelling by the Mannings as part of it makes it so much cooler in a lot of fans' eyes. And of course, me, I'm an Indianapolis girl, so Peyton Manning is the best.
We have that in common. You're an Indianapolis girl with Peyton Manning. I'm a Tennessee guy. Peyton Manning. We both share a love of Peyton Manning and the personality. I mean, they were made for that type of broadcast with the rapport the two brothers have and how they can bring the best and the jokes they can lean into with that. I'm with you. It's great. I talked about watching a Braves broadcast earlier this year, and they didn't have a traditional play-by-play voice. And instead, they had Chipper Jones, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz come in for a night, and Jeff Francoeur, who's their normal color guy, but they all played together. So it was 4 players in the booth, and they would alternate innings on who would call play-by-play. And they got a great game against the Mets to call, but I'm watching this and thinking, someone's going to jump on this. Someone's going to hear this and see this and think, maybe we could just do for our Major League Baseball every game broadcast something without a play-by-play voice and just get 2 entertaining former players in that can tell stories and joke with each other.
I think the Rays broadcast team just won an Emmy too. I think they won some type of award. So what you're saying is obviously very true because other people are recognizing it as well.
Absolutely. Charlie Arnault is with us, very special guest co-host with us on today's edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. When we come back, we're going to talk fighting. Charlie knows a thing or two about that. I don't know if she knows how to handicap a fight between Elon Musk and Zuck. And that's what very well may actually happen. No, I'm not joking. Zuck versus Musk. We'll discuss when we come back. This is Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
he did
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
We're back. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Chad Withrow with you in our downtown Nashville studio, 6th and Peabody, Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. And we've got very special guest co-host with us today, Charlie Arnault. She is up in New York City. She's getting things ready to go. She's working on her screensaver behind her right now. It's actually beautiful.
I mean, it is. It looks, I'm in the clouds here in San Francisco, it seems, which, as we know, is not so beautiful. So this is the last place I would want to be quite honest with you. I had a nice hot mic background, but we'll get back. We'll get back there in a few minutes.
We'll get the hot mic background. In the meantime, every time a different city pops up, I'm just going to start quizzing you about the city that's behind you, even if you can't see it at the time, and then we'll just go from there.
A lot of drugs happening here. That's all I know.
No doubt about it. I don't know if
Aaron Rodgers knows something about.
He does. Ayahuasca, I believe, is his drug of choice. I don't know if drugs are involved between Elon Musk and what's going on with him and Mark Zuckerberg. The challenge has been laid down between the two men, Charlie. You cover UFC. You know the fighting world a bit. Mark Zuckerberg has been trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's getting a lot tougher. He's very fit right now. Mark Zuckerberg is also 5'7", 154 pounds. And as our guy Alejandro Avila at OutKick has written with a tail of the tape, which is a really funny article at OutKick, I advise you check it out. Zuckerberg, 5'7", 154. He's worth $100 billion. Elon Musk, 6'2", 205, worth $236 billion. Now, money aside, if these two guys actually fight, as the challenge has been laid down, Charlie, size versus not so much size, but training on Zuck's side on his behalf, what do you think would happen between the two with your expert knowledge of UFC?
Mark Zuckerberg has the skills. I think size differential aside, Elon Musk, from what I've seen of him, he's got the dad bod going, which, listen, for all you male listeners out there, ain't nothing wrong with the dad bod. All right. Just putting that out there. But in a octagon, in a cage, where the goal is to smash the other person or, get them into a point of submission, I think that the fighting experience is going to go a long way here. And I also heard, which is hilarious, that Elon Musk, he's already talking about what tactics he's going to use. He's like, I'm going to use my own personalized move called the walrus, which is where I just lay on my opponent and do nothing else. This picture of Elon Musk too, imagine
it's great.
You just in there hanging out on top of his opponent and he's just crushing him. I mean, I guess that's some type of potentially successful maneuver, but I don't know. Mark Zuckerberg looks feisty. But if you ask me just from a personal standpoint of who I would want to win, obviously I'm going for Elon Musk.
Well, I'm torn here on who would actually win, because most of the time with a bigger person, you think if they can get into their body and just get a hold of them and get them in a headlock and start going to town, the bigger human will win the fight. But with this one, with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu knowledge, I don't think that getting engaged would be the best course of action for Elon Musk in this one. Your buddy Dana White has spoken up about this, Charlie, and says it would be the most watched fight of all time. And that these guys, he talked to both of them, and that they are serious about doing this. You may be cage side for this event at some point. Get ready.
Listen, I feel like it's only necessary that I'm cage side. I feel like it just makes sense for me to be reporting on this one. They've already solicited out Joe Rogan's help in calling the fight, which also clearly makes a lot of sense. This would be so much fun. Now, I do think, I think that anyone would be dying to see this fight go down. It would be more from a comedic standpoint, though. I don't think anyone's really expecting to see some all-out 5-round brawl. But Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk, I mean, it just sounds amazing.
Well, I mean, sign me up. If you're like a true, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, I don't have to pay for the pay-per-views, but I think they said they're going to do $100 a pop, and they're going to donate all the money to charity too, which also is a really cool, I think, little extra aspect of making this one fun.
I mean, it's almost like, to a lesser extent, the Oceangate thing. You couldn't pay me enough money for charity or anything if I'm one of these high-profile guys to go into a cage and just make an ass of myself fighting someone else, like to get whipped, because he's right. This will be bigger than Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. Everyone's going to tune in for this if these two guys fight. But if you're the one who gets whipped in front of that many people, it's tough to come back from that, I feel like. Even if you've got $236 billion, just from a rep standpoint, I would not want to get whipped in front of that many people, right?
This has nothing to do with money. This is bragging rights and dignity. And I think two things. Now I forgot my second one, but one, I think there would have to be some type of bet on the line, right? Because they don't care about money. It's not like, oh, you get paid. Who really cares? Like Elon Musk doesn't care if he gets paid from this fight. Mark Zuckerberg probably doesn't care about the money either. There needs to be something more on the line other than just bragging rights. Like, you are my personal assistant for the day if you win, because that would be like an extra layer of embarrassment. So I could see that maybe being an extra angle that they throw into this to making it more exciting for the viewer and also the two inside the octagon. I also think that this has to become more successful than McGregor Mayweather, even because a lot of people were tuning into, even if you're not like the biggest fight fan, this is still more of a niched fight. Whereas this, if you use social media, which every single person in the world does, then you're going to be interested in this fight. It's just one of those things where everyone of all ages is going to be in on this one. So, I mean, there's no chance that this isn't the biggest fight in history, if it does indeed happen.
David in the YouTube chat just has 3 words. He says, Musk too doughy, which I think is what you're getting at with the dad bod.
Dad bod.
Musk too doughy. It's like a T-shirt. That's a great way to put it. But if
you're standing on your yacht and you've got a little bit of a dad bod or a little dough hanging out, that's all good, right? It's still like, say what you want. I'm on my yacht with my dough hanging out, all good. But you're inside of an octagon, about to have a fight, a little bit of a different story.
I also think that Elon Musk is the type that would just train like crazy for it and get in really good shape in time for the fight. I mean, I think anyone would if you knew you're going to have that many eyeballs on you. Now, some people hate like the golf events where NFL players will play with pros, and you get to see guys hit shots like we would on the golf course at times where they don't do it full time and it's not professional level and it's not great. I love it because I can relate to it, and it's more about personality. When it comes to the fight game, if you love watching fights and you're used to seeing professionals that are highly trained do it, it's a much higher level. But there is an entertainment value to thinking about normal dudes getting in an octagon and fighting each other. I mean, if Mark Cuban wanted to fight Jerry Jones, I'd be all for paying for the pay-per-view rate, whatever it was, $50,
Jerry Jones,
$100 to do it. He's very old. His
arm snapped instantly.
He's very old. I mean, if you go back in time and, you could have Rockefeller versus Carnegie, this would be the equivalent of Musk versus Zuckerberg today. So I'm all in. I hope it happens.
Did you do that for president?
One of them did. Yes.
Like, honestly, seriously, let's put Trump and Biden in there together, and whoever wins gets to be president. Because I have a feeling I know how that one would end up, and I'm okay with it.
I think you'd find a tough job finding a state to license that from a health standpoint.
Dana White will do it.
Almost 80-year-old people fighting. He'd have to go to an island somewhere that he owns in order to subvert the regulations to get that fight done. But it would be highly entertaining. Rob Manfred, MLB commissioner, says now that he regrets his handling of the cheating scandal with the Houston Astros, where they were signaling in pitches, and says, hey, if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't have immediately eliminated the ability to punish players in all this. Instead, he punished general manager, fined the teams, but did not punish the players. I like the honesty, Charlie. I also think maybe too little too late to come back, 6 years later, 5 years later, and say this.
It's a weird thing to even mention at this point? Why did this come up? What was the situation in which he decided there was even an appropriate situation which he should address this controversy that happened so many years ago?
Yeah, I think he was just in an interview talking to someone, and it came up, and he brought up that he has regrets about just taking that off the table immediately.
Yeah, it is. It's too little too late. Who really cares what you should have done? You didn't do it. It was very obvious what you should have done at that point in time. I mean, it was like blatant cheating. I don't know. I feel like baseball right now is just not getting any good looks. I mean, they have the controversies, dealing with the Dodgers, Anthony Bass, now this, I don't know. It's just baseball's not in a good place right now. I don't think this was the right time to bring this up. I don't think any time was the right time to bring it up. I think what's done is done, and history will stand as it is. But thank you for weighing in 6 years later, Rob. We appreciate it.
It's always these stories where it's like the movie A Few Good Men, where you had a code red that was ordered, and the whole movie comes down to the responsibility of the person ordered that was given the orders versus the person giving the order. So if your understanding is that they were just following orders from their manager and their team, and this is what the team did, and the players had no choice but to follow management and to follow their coach on that, then I guess you could come up with the plan that, okay, then the players shouldn't be suspended for it. But we all know these players are also adults and knew exactly what they were doing and knew that this level of tipping pitches and finding pitches and what's happening, this level of cheating was not going on in the game. There were other things that were being done, but not to this level. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think there should be more personal accountability from the players in a story like this. Doesn't matter who ordered the code red. If you followed through with it, then you could be on the other end of it also and face some suspension time. And Rob Manfred now agrees with that. So scouts are now suing Major League Baseball. Speaking of negative Major League Baseball stories, Charlie, there's a group of scouts that are suing Major League Baseball for age discrimination. Now, this comes at a time where analytics have never been bigger in baseball, and computers are running the game in many ways. And younger, more analytically driven scouts, operatives for these Major League Baseball clubs, they're getting the jobs and not older scouts who have done it for a long time. Now, one claimant is saying, quote, "We believe the commissioners and the owner colluded to eliminate veteran personnel because of salaries." And this is basically a money dump. What do you think about this story? And do you think that the old people in baseball have been discriminated against?
I mean, honestly, this is just such a stupid argument. Yeah, there is the very high probability that if the MLB can get scouts who are just as talented, if not more, using more innovative strategies, then why would they not want to hire those people? Why would they unnecessarily pay out more money for someone to do the job to a lesser extent? I don't know. I'm not a general manager, but that's just kind of the way the world works in general, doesn't it? And then B, I just think it's absolutely spot on that I think that, I know some guys who are into analytics and the ways that they are figuring out, how to scout and how to examine different players and even in-game scenarios, what plays to run, XYZ. I mean, yeah, a lot of it is computer driven, and that's the way the world's going. Haven't you heard of Chat GPT? A lot of people are using that to write their legal cases now, some not so successfully, but this is the world, the way the world is going. So either get in line and learn these new innovative tactics, or, be okay with earning less money to do the job that you've always done. I just don't see an argument here.
So the Charlotte Hornets, they have an argument right now. They're mad. They're mad at Michael Jordan. I don't think they're mad at him for selling the team or the majority stake in the team, but mad at past draft picks. And they're mad last night when Brandon Miller was the selection and not Scoot Henderson. And one Charlotte Hornets fan went on a rant that was hilarious to me. Given the look of the fan, the hairstyle, everything else going on with this rant, and that it's the Charlotte Hornets. And he's also going to evoke the name of the Charlotte Bobcats, which, to be honest, I didn't know that Charlotte Bobcats ever had any fans when they were the Bobcats. This guy is very emotional about Brandon Miller being the second overall pick. And, Charlie, here's what the fan had to say after the pick was made.
Michael Jordan, you've owned the Hornets, the Bobcats since I've been a fan, man. And every time I think you're about to do something like bad, you do something worse. Hornets fans have been through it all since day one. We have drafted more busts than any franchise. We've had to put up with so much stuff. It has affected my mental to be a fan of this team. And the moment I think, okay, this is it. This is our breakthrough, you know? We draft Brandon Miller. So I'm rooting for the guy, I guess. It was the wrong pick. I'm rooting for the guy, but that's all.
This is someone Charlie just really wanted to be on TV. That saw a camera there and said, hey, I've got a very strong take on this. I'm not really going to say anything, but I'm going to act like I'm irate about the pick, and I'm going to do so in an emotional way, like I'm giving you a speech, and then you're going to air it on your show. And that's exactly what happened. Look, the Brandon Miller stuff at Alabama, I get, but he's not going to be charged with anything. He was the best player in college basketball last year as a true freshman, so I don't understand Hornets fans being mad about the pick from a basketball perspective, but tell that to this guy.
Okay, first of all, that guy's haircut, I can't.
It's great.
That's all I could look at. It didn't really matter what he was saying because all we could focus on was that ridiculous bowl cut. That's great. Listen, I also, the guy did a good job of remaining on TV for quite a long time. Usually you get cut off pretty quickly. So good for that guy. But yeah, Brandon Miller, I think a lot of people were a little bit iffed or miffed. The word is miffed, not iffed. But I made that up. I might trademark that because Brandon Miller was chosen. I mean, there was the same reason people were yelling at Malika Andrews for calling him out on past transgressions leading up to the draft. Maybe some people have an issue, but like I said, the NBA is looking at talent and talent only, and they saw all of that in Brandon Miller, and so be it.
We've got a judge's ruling with Charlie Arnott coming up next. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
In Washington and you and Bryce got into it, and the media, that was like everywhere forever, and people were asking me, I said, I'm not sure you people understand that happens like 3 times a week. Most of the time it happens behind the scenes.
You know how many times Tech would whoop my ass?
Oh no, but I know, and I was on the other end of that as well. I was on both ends of that.
But see, here's the thing though too is you know how player only meetings are. We had many of those about our manager at the time, about the general man, about, everything included. I went there, we were up 3 games. Now all of a sudden we're down 3 games and it's end of September. And, we had a lot, like there was a lot of things that went on that said, okay, all right, guys, we're going to start running the bases right. We're going to start pitching with authority and command the strike zone. We're not going to like, we got to get back. Right. All these things in an hour-long team meeting. Well, I mean, and then the very next day we go out and we do the same and then it's like over and over. And so things exploded and it happens on the field. Me and Bryce are great today, man.
Well, and I love you both. I love him. I've only met him a couple times, but I love the hell out of him. He's a pro. He plays hard and all the things that he does.
100% leader now. I mean, and that's the thing is people don't understand is we go through these things in life, man, that either take us to or away from God, that take us to or away from the fans, and for our families and all our teammates and brotherhoods and all this bullshit. And it makes you who you are.
Who are the 2 or 3 guys over your career that were most influential on you as pitchers in the bullpen? Because you guys sit down there and you wouldn't come down till I don't remember 6th or 7th inning or whatever. But when you sat down who were the guys that you really became better because of their presence?
Okay, well, 2 guys really, and for me, talking just strictly bullpen guys, believe it or not, were Gagne. I mean, Gagne taught me a lot about like longevity and like mistakes in life, how to get through like more life than any.
Right.
I don't know, man.
People don't remember. He came to us at the end of his career I got to see him when he was in his prime, and he was the most dominating pitcher I ever seen in my life. He had 5 wipeout pitches.
Unbelievable.
And he did things with the baseball I've never seen anybody do. But he was with us for a brief period in Boston, and I didn't realize that. That's great to hear, though, because I loved him. He was a great dude.
Yeah, he was a great guy, and he came to us, and I'll never forget it. He called me up before he came. He said, "Pap, you're going to close here. I want to set you up, and I'm on the tail end of my career." We had a good talk with Theo, and it was. And to me, I learned the business then, and it helped me on my way out too. When I got old and was like, okay, it's time to turn the ball over. But even speaking earlier, when I made that comment in New York, I had always been like that. And what's funny is we had this camp in big league camp for some of the prospects, and Theo made us write down what we thought we were going to do in our career. And I said, well, I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame, Theo. I don't need to write in the Hall of Fame. Well, I fell a little short of it, but
but you wouldn't have been the player you were without that mentality.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're back. It is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. I'm Chad Withrow, your host, live from our 6th and Peabody Studios, downtown Nashville, with Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. We are getting you through the end of your week. Thank you if you're listening on one of our fine radio affiliates. We appreciate you. We love you all. If you're watching right now on the YouTube page, please subscribe at OutKick. Smash that like button. If you're on the YouTube page right now. Not been as active in the YouTube chat today. Running the ship today. I'm the captain. I'm Captain Phillips, but unlike Captain Phillips, I'm not surrendering to pirates today. I'm going to continue and soldier on and captain the ship to the end of the week up until 6 p.m. Eastern today with Jonathan Hutton out. He'll be back with us on Tuesday, which means very special guest co-host Charlie Arnault. She's with us up in New York City right now. New York City, but she's thrown us off because she's got San Francisco in the background. So always keeping us on our toes. Got to keep them guessing. Got to keep them wanting more, right, Charlie? That's the name of the game. She's doing that with her backdrop right now. Every time Charlie joins us for her weekly segment, we do a little thing called Judge's Ruling. We try to put our heads together and decide a definitive ruling about some social norm or some social abnormality. And we've got one for Charlie today that we're going to have a discussion on. And to help us do that, we brought on Davey Hudson, who has a predicament. Davey's going to join us a little bit later also to talk about his dating life. But right now he's going to hop on with us to present a problem, or Davey, is it a problem?
I'll just throw it out there and I'll let you all go with it. But the judge's ruling topic for today, fair or foul, going to a nice sit-down restaurant by yourself.
Going to a nice sit-down restaurant by yourself. Charlie, I always think of the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall when Jason Segel's character gets broken up with. He still goes on the Hawaiian vacation, and he shows up at the resort restaurant, really nice sit-down place, by himself. And Jonah Hill, who's the waiter, is asking if he can get him a book or do something for him because he's so thrown off by him just sitting there by himself waiting on his meal. Where do you come on the going to a nice restaurant, sitting down by yourself? What's your ruling on this?
Hell yeah, bring it on. I think if you want to go treat yourself to a nice date, that is awesome. Good for you. Also, I think that for the single women out there, listen, you go to the nice restaurant on your own. What better place to pick up men, right? You don't have any scrubs at the nice restaurants. This is where the guys with the money go, right? So if you're looking to maybe like get yourself into a situation where, you know, you meet someone nice and someone who is successful, whatever the case might be, I mean, the nice restaurant might be the move.
Well,
all I'm saying.
And also, like, there's a difference here between going to a nice place and going to the bar and sitting down and ordering a really nice meal at a nice restaurant at the bar versus going at 7:30, 8 p.m. on a Friday night solo and saying, I'll have a table for one. So, Davey, what we're trying to rule on here is legitimately sitting down at a table by yourself, right, to eat a nice dinner.
I mean, it's something like you want to bring a book. I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Slammin' Salmon, where Will Forte's character just shows up and he is there for about
Slammin' Salmon, is that a movie?
It is.
I love Will Forte. I've never even heard of this film.
It's Broken Lizard Comedy Group. So if you've ever heard of the movie Beer Fest, it's the same people that made that.
Super Troopers,
Club Dread.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that group. But I mean, some people, they just want to be at the restaurant. They'll bring, I mean, another thing now with just having your phone handy, a lot of people, while it's not great for social conversations and having people actually look up for once, I mean, I think it's becoming more and more common.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think especially because if these nice restaurants have meals that you like and really good food.
But okay,
why do you need company?
Let's add to this, Charlie. This is you prefer going to the restaurant by yourself versus with other people.
Oh well, no, that's no. Of course, I prefer to go with someone.
I can make an argument.
Well,
a date or a friend. Yeah, it's always more
you're
fun.
You're a
to go
weirdo, Davey. Let's face it. If you prefer going to a restaurant solo and sitting down at a table solo, that is very abnormal behavior. I'd be fine with a bar. Like you're out of town on a work trip or whatever, and you go to a nice restaurant and sit at the bar and eat. The booth, see, this is where I come down on it because I agree with Charlie. It's okay. My judge's ruling would be yes, it's fine. Go to a nice sit-down restaurant by yourself. That's okay. But I have stipulations on it in that booth or bar, like if it's a booth and you're at the corner and you kind of see everyone and you're by yourself, to me that's different than white tablecloth, table that's set for 4, they have to take 3 spots away, and you sit down solo by yourself. Am I crazy to think there's a difference between those?
Listen, if you go to a nice restaurant on a Friday night and you are able to get the hostess to take away 3 table settings at a booth so you can sit there solo, all I'm saying is you are doing something right, because usually they will turn you away really quick. So if you find yourself in that situation, I say congratulations.
It's an Elon Musk level move is what you're saying.
Yeah.
To go to like the nicest place and say, I know you're going to be packed tonight and you're supposed to have a reservation, but I want that perfect booth in the corner.
Yep.
That's for 6 people. And I want you to take 5 of those menus away, and I want you to sit me down at that spot for 6 for 1 person, and that's where I'll be dining tonight. That is a power play, Charlie. I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever made a reservation for one at a restaurant?
That's a great question.
No,
I don't think I've ever had to do that. Yeah. Have you?
And here's the thing. I usually, here's actually, I have a little bit of a trick for anyone out there listening. So sometimes if you go on a website, let's say Open Table as an example, where you need a reservation to go to a nice restaurant. Sometimes let's say you need it for 2 people, all right? And you find, they only have reservations at 5:45 and 9:30. You want something more in that sweet spot. Well, there is the trick that sometimes you put in 3 people, which then requires a 4-top table. Suddenly new reservations open up. So I'm just saying, if you have to lie a little bit about how many people you have in your reservation to secure the reservation, and then day of show up and say, oops, 2 people got sick.
I mean,
just saying it works.
It's a risk, because some places are highfalutin enough to tell you, no, you can't until your whole party's here. Or you should have informed us.
You say they're sick. You be like, they're sick. You remember like back in the coronavirus days, that was like the ultimate ploy. You could just be like, like these people didn't show up. They think they might have COVID.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we don't want them here anyways. Of course, no problem. So, it still works.
Does the COVID excuse still work in New York? Could you go to a restaurant and say, I think they have COVID, so there's only going to be 2 and not 4 at our dinner reservation tonight. And people are like, oh, yeah, we don't want them here. You're right. You have a seat, ma'am.
There's a lot of diseases floating around New York. You could monkeypox, COVID. Listen, we've got a lot of things happening here. So there's a lot of excuses you can pull out of your pocket.
Okay, my final, I guess, switch of the question I'm going to add is, instead of it being a restaurant, going to a movie by yourself. You prefer that versus going with people?
Totally acceptable.
Totally acceptable, too. I'm completely with you.
Fine.
Sometimes schedules don't line up, where you're the only one who has availability late in the afternoon or earlier in the day for a matinee or at night. I mean, absolutely. This was a move I'd pull in college a lot. Like if all my buddies had classes at different times and I really wanted to go see something, I was not ashamed to go to an 11:15 a.m. showing of something I wanted to see by myself and watch it with no one else there. So, Charlie, you're saying absolutely no problem with that also?
Yeah, I think going to a movie by yourself is sometimes the better move, right? You don't have to, there's no, oh, what do you want to see? Well, I want to see this. Well, I get to go see what I want to see when I want to see it, and I don't have to talk to you. And I wasn't going to talk to you anyways because it's a movie. So, case closed.
Amen.
Judges ruling confirmed.
Amen, sister. Put it in the ledger. Both are okay. We're going to write it down, put it in ink. So, going to a restaurant solo, totally acceptable. Going to a movie solo, also totally acceptable. Davey, hang on here for this one, because the next question I have, and I raised this question with recent personal experience, coaching my daughter's travel softball team, I find myself eating a lot more concession food. For years, if I'm at a baseball game, softball game, whatever, hot dog is the play. Like, to me, I like hot dogs. It's the easiest. You eat it quickly. But I find myself being drawn to the nacho. Just the chips. It's very basic. You can't screw it up at these places. It is melted cheese. It's in the little plastic container. The chips are always okay. It's straight out of a bag. So I'm going nachos. Charlie, what is your go-to concession item if you're at a sporting event?
Definitely a hot dog. I only truly eat hot dogs when I'm at a game. Otherwise, I'm not. You know, it's funny that when I was younger, you used to buy the pack of like 6 or 8, whatever, variants coming of the Oscar Mayer. And like, I would just have a random pack of buns also at home and like ketchup and mustard. And it would just be like my after school snack, which is really funny to look back on. But yeah, now the only time I get a hot dog is at a game. So I'm definitely going the hot dog route. That is so delicious. And I'm actually hungry looking at this guy's disgusting looking hot dog right now.
Well, and it also becomes kind of part of the sights and sounds and smells of a game. Right, for you, that's part of the experience. Is you go and you're going to have a hot dog when you're at a baseball game. I'm totally with you on that.
I also am not a beer drinker. Like, that's not something I like. If I'm going out to dinner or a bar, I usually get like a glass of wine or liquor drink of some tequila generally. But if I'm at a game, like I'm getting a beer. Like, that's just another thing. Like, it's a part of the experience. I need the taste of beer to wash down my hot dog.
Davey,
yeah,
what
Chad,
are you rolling with?
This answer is probably not going to surprise you, but mine is water, and that's typically only if the one I'm trying to sneak in is confiscated. I am one of the cheapest people I know, so I don't like to spend money. The markup prices at the concession stand nowadays, it's outrageous. We continue to get to a point to where it's, why would I even want to give you my money? I'm not going to get my money's worth back in whatever that product might be. But if I were to play the game the right way, I would probably just go with popcorn. It's simple. You know, it's got the saltiness to it. You mentioned the nachos. I feel like that is kind of having a staple of being at a game and just getting something that's going to, I guess, fill your palate that way.
Yeah.
And also now this makes sense as to why Davey asked about going to the restaurant solo, because, you know, he's never done it. That means he has to pay for himself. So
something tells me this will also come back in our dating segment with Davey later, or maybe the lack thereof. With his unwillingness to spend money. I have the hardest time buying water if I'm going somewhere because I feel like it's so expensive. I'm like, why don't I just get a vodka soda instead for $7 more?
Okay, so there are certain things. Okay, so listen, I can appreciate being cheap in some senses. Like, I just have some principles that I just can't get behind because of the cheapness that kicks in. I hate paying for parking. Drives me insane.
Yes.
Paying for water drives me insane. Like that, this is a necessity to live. I don't think I should have to pay $6 for a bottle of water. Yeah, we'll just stick with those two for now. But yeah, so water would be the one thing that I feel like of all things I can't spend money on because it's just not worth it.
Yeah, there are certain things, and I flip-flop. There are extremes on both ends. Parking, I'm with you on that. Absolutely, I have a hard time forking over a lot of money for parking. But certain things I'll never want to spend an exorbitant amount of money on. Tickets are another one. I've been spoiled working in sports where I get so many free tickets to events that I will never splurge on tickets to anything again. But there are also things that I will spend whatever they tell me the price is. Going to the movies is one of them. If it's a movie I really want to see in theaters, they could up that bad boy to $35 a ticket, and I'd probably pay to go to the movie. I'm weird that way, and then I'm fine spending the money there. but not other places. McDonald's isn't that expensive, right? But the cost of going to McDonald's sometimes could be getting into a fight like this one that we're going to watch right now, where an employee just throws a drink in the face of the customer. Charlie, you don't strike me as someone that goes to McDonald's a lot, but if you were at a McDonald's and this happened to you with an employee, what would your reaction be? Would it be like this guy's?
Oh my God. Some people just have no chill. I just don't really understand why someone thinks this is the appropriate reaction, no matter what happened. I mean, wow, this guy just needs to get laid, I think.
Yeah.
Is that a good segue into our dating segment?
Yeah, no, definitely for later. Yeah, that's definitely a good segue. No, I watched that, and I also think these places are having a hard time finding people to work because people are making money other ways without having a job. So I admire the people that are working somewhere like McDonald's for not a lot of money. And then I see an employee do something like that, and I'm thinking,
oh my gosh.
Even if you're the owner of that place, like, I don't know that you can fire that guy, because it's not easy to replace workers at a place like McDonald's. That guy's willing to show up to work.
You know what, though?
This customer pissed him off, so he threw a drink in his face. So, I mean, he may have just had to say, hey, he probably deserved it.
I can only imagine how annoying some people are at fast food restaurants, probably the majority of people that come through. It probably wasn't even this customer. This was the icing on the cake, right? He was already on the edge. And then it was just the one thing that the customer said, this guy's like, F this, I am out.
Totally set him off. I'm with you. Davey, I know you probably would have responded the same way also.
Yeah, well, I mean, personally, I have a vendetta against McDonald's, so I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole at the moment.
We will go down that eventually, though, because I have some questions.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I don't say anything to get in trouble. But outside of that, that guy's probably the worker. I feel for him. He's in a tough spot. I know a lot of the fast food workers definitely battling. But for this situation, I mean, it's also going to get to a point to where within the next 2-3 years, that guy's probably replaced by AI anyway.
Yeah,
sad as that is to say.
Unfortunately, you're probably right. Neymar's not being replaced by AI anytime soon. He's getting the ultimate hall pass. We may have to carry that topic over to the next segment because it's time to get weird with Davey. Davey Hudson gets weird with us. That's coming up next. This is Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
What is your primary complaint when people pop their knuckles?
Primary complaint is chewing with your mouth open. Yuck.
I would say when you're getting off an airplane and people in the back try and sprint to the front, especially like late at night, like you don't have a connecting flight, just wait like everybody else. I'd say that's fine.
Small portions, big bill. Yeah, if the quality's good, it's okay. But if there's small portions and I got a big fat bill, not a thing, you know.
Sun Country Airlines canceling our flight less than 8 hours before we're supposed to leave.
I've never even heard of Sun Country Airlines in my life.
Velcro.
Velcro? Why? What about it?
The sound.
Oh, like nails on a chalkboard for you.
I'm a kindergarten teacher, and to hear that Velcro.
Time to teach them how to tie their shoes.
When they don't cross the road when no cars are driving.
They're just waiting for the light?
Yeah, like a normal person.
Yeah, you got to break the rules a little bit.
Right from New York City. We know how to walk.
Really upset. Ben Jones is no longer with the Titans, but more importantly, I'm upset the Titans didn't draft a wide receiver in the top 2 rounds. We need receivers, guys. Come on, tighten up.
So what do you think about Will Levis? Was that a good move or a bad move?
Ooh, that's a tough call. Time will tell. But I think we needed a receiver more.
Smack their gum. Chew with their mouth open and smack their gum.
Okay.
That with chips and everything else, yeah.
Liars.
Liars, okay. Has anyone lied to you recently?
No.
Have you lied?
Always.
One of the biggest pet peeves is not knowing your manners. Like, not having respect or thank you, sir, ma'am.
My biggest pet peeve is when you don't push your chair in after you leave a table. That's my biggest pet peeve. Really is.
So, like, when people want to speak to you and they're like you to me, but they start walking out of the other room into different rooms and they keep talking like, I am supposed to understand I can't hardly understand people when their back is turned to me and when they're not talking right at me. So when you're getting into different rooms and you keep talking like, yeah, blah, 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 it must be my dog talking to me.
There's a crane over every building. There's a truck.
There's a whole something. Yeah. So let's get the streets fixed and get those things done. Time's wasted. Let's go.
A dirty house.
Dirty house. Like, are you a shoes off at the front door kind of guy?
Up front, yes, ma'am.
I hate it when centre backs don't bat the odd one. Do you know, when the centre backs go up to try and catch the ball all the time, they should bat the odd one.
You know, siblings are pet peeves, you know, to be honest with you. You know, just looking at him, he's a pet peeve.
I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I like to get along with others. I kind of leave people in their place. When people don't follow the social construct, it really upsets me. Example, when you stand up on an airplane, right, when it lands, and then try to push past people down the line. You know what orders you're supposed to go in. That's the part of the social contract. When you're grocery shopping and you have your cart and you don't take it back to the cart delivery spot, but you just leave it by there beside the parking spot, taking up someone else's spot, violating the social contract. Do what you're supposed to. Yeah, do your civic duty. Follow through with what your parents told you to do.
Rolling right along on this Friday afternoon with you. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network and on whatever fine radio station affiliate you're listening to right now. We thank all of you. If you're on the YouTube page, make sure that you subscribe to OutKick and also smash that like button while you're watching Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton out today, which means very special guest co-host Charlie Arnault in today. She is up in New York City helping us out, doing a fabulous job. Every day on the show, Charlie, we get weird, and we get weird with Davey Hudson, and now is that time.
Let's get weird! Let's get weird! Weird, get weird! Weird, get weird!
Davey, are we going fill-in-the-blank style today, or you're going to let us fill in the blank?
We are.
The story?
We are. So, Charlie, we are playing a game show style of Let's Get Weird. So what's going to happen is I'm going to read you part of a headline, and you have to guess on what is happening on the blank part that you will see on your screen. So we're going to get started. And our first one today, Brazil seizes 28.7 tons of what?
Charlie, you have honors. Ayahuasca, I love it. I'm going down the same route. Cocaine? I feel like in Brazil, it's got to be one of the two. What is it, Dave?
Drugs would be a good answer, but it's actually endangered shark fins.
Oh,
I don't even.
lovely.
Yeah, I don't even know the amount of space it would take to store 28.7 tons of shark fins, but
you gotta have a pretty big warehouse to make that happen.
They managed to do it down in Brazil. This is obviously illegal. If you do know that the Asian market is huge for shark fin, it's considered a delicacy in that region of the world.
I did not know that either.
These sharks, it was a total of 10,000 sharks, and this is according to a Fox News article if you want to see more. But it consisted of two sharks. There was the short fin mako and the blue shark. So that's just local region fishing companies were doing this, and it just so happens that you got to a point to where they had another seizure of 11 tons of shark fin about a month ago, and it's just one of those things that continues to be a growing problem with the nations or the oceans across the world, just the shark population being depleted. Just a random question. Do you guys know which type of sharks, the top 3 sharks as far as deadliest attacks?
No, but going back to the shark fin, I'm surprised that it's just to eat. I thought there would be some other like medicinal use for it. I was almost thinking like ED medication, like ground up shark fin would be good for that, or some sort of steroid. So I'm surprised
like, guys,
it's just a
this is my
delicacy.
boyfriend. He has ED and he has shark fins for dinner.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Like oysters, they say about oysters forever. Maybe shark fins are like that in Asia. I didn't know. What are the deadliest shark attacks?
Well,
David?
if you hated this story, at least you can walk away saying you learned something. And the deadliest shark attacks, great white, number 1.
I said that.
Tiger shark, number 2. Bull shark, number 3.
I don't know that I know any other types of sharks other than those 3. Like to me, a shark is a shark. A hammerhead. There's a hammerhead,
that
right?
Got that guy in the sea off of Egypt.
Yeah, that was a tiger shark.
That was one.
There's also a sand tiger shark and nurse sharks, reef sharks, oceanic white tip, black tip.
Davey, there's a 9-year-old in my neighborhood that like dives all the way in on certain subjects, and every time I give him a ride in my car with my daughter to a camp, like the last time was the planets. And he just went through every fact he knows about the planets the entire drive. I feel like that could be you with sharks.
Had he been
forever, we should just go to you for shark info the way you're just going through the different types of sharks right now, just like the 9-year-old.
Was he programmed to dismiss Pluto as a planet?
No, I did ask him about Pluto, and he didn't have as much information. He was way more knowledgeable on Neptune. Is what I recall about his planetary knowledge. What's next, Davey?
The next one we have up, okay, Father's Day was this past Sunday. The headline reads, "It's not Father's Day until blank show up."
Oh, it's not Father's Day until Dad shows up.
Yeah, I was going to go with kids because you're not really, celebrating Father's Day if the kids aren't around. So maybe kids show up.
I was going with the strippers on this one, and that's because there's a story out of Mexico where a mayor hired strippers to attend a family event. And they're at this town hall, and they have the fathers, the mothers, and the kids there. And it just so happened they brought some strippers over from the local strip club. And let's just say it did not go according to plan. There's some very blurry photos on the screen I was able to take, but it just goes to show you, man.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's we try to be nice and put something on for the community.
If that's my husband celebrating Father's Day, he will never live to see another Father's Day again. So I hope it was worth it.
It was interesting that they're just on a concrete floor with no chairs, and that apparently lap dances are being performed on the floor, just completely laid out.
And who's this man
Never
in the back?
seen that maneuver before.
Yeah.
Oh, the guy just hanging out? Looks like he's on his phone in the back of it. I do wonder, do gentlemen's clubs have Father's Day specials? Do they have like 2-for-1s? Do they have like different things to get guys in for Father's Day, or do they completely avoid that holiday altogether? I don't know. We'll find out next week's Let's Get Weird, I'm sure, from Davey with a follow-up to this story. Davey, what's next?
Typically how it works. All right, this next one, it's not even a story. It's just a law I found, and I was like, you know what? That's interesting. I'm going to bring that to the table. So here we go. It is illegal to own just one of blank in Switzerland.
I'm going to say dog.
Charlie?
Toilet.
That's a good one.
Chad, you were actually going down the right path when you went with the animal, but it's actually guinea pig. Yes, it is illegal to own just one guinea pig in the country of Switzerland. The reason behind that is that guinea pigs are social animals, and so the animal conservationists, I guess they would be just advocates were like, you know what? We want to make sure that these are always at least paired up. They have a partner, and so they have made it a law in Switzerland. So if you go there, just know you're not going to be able to buy just one if you ever were in Switzerland looking to buy a guinea pig. Did you all ever have like a guinea pig or a hamster growing up?
I never had one of those. I feel like, Charlie, there were at least 2 or 3 of my elementary school teachers who possessed a rabbit, guinea pig, or hamster for the class. Growing up, like I always had one. Yeah.
Why was that a thing? Is that still a thing? Does anyone have kids where is that a thing?
No, I have kids, and it's certainly not a thing in my house, nor is any other pet.
I remember also, like, when there would be the holidays, someone would get to take home the hamster or the guinea pig. Like, it would be their pet. And it would be like, oh, I want to take it home. And now, looking back, you know that guinea pigs are considered rodents, right? They're disgusting. They smell horrible.
Yeah, they're disease carriers also.
They're disgusting. They're literally horrific. And I'm thankful I never won the class lottery to take them home. But yeah, those were something back in the day.
I also think of things now from the parent perspective, now that I am a parent. And I think if my child was handed a guinea pig or hamster over Thanksgiving break to take home for me to take care of, I would be so angry, right?
Yeah.
Think about our parents when we were little, if we decided, oh, please me, Mrs. Chapman, please let me take the guinea pig home, and our parents were forced to have the guinea pig in their own home for an extended period of time. Crazy.
So I'll step in. When I was 5, I actually had a guinea pig.
Did you?
He lived for 3 years. It was a crushing loss. I think that was like actually the first situation where I lost something I cared about. So that one hit me hard. R.I.P. Squirtle. It's been several years now. Speaking of this is just random as well, but I feel like that kind of just works for this segment. Speaking of Squirtle, Charlie, do you know what the highest grossing franchise of all time is when it comes to media? We talked about this on the show yesterday.
Grossing franchise of all time. Franchise. Marvel?
No.
It's on the list.
Marvel comes in at 9 at $38 billion, but it's actually Pokemon, and it's $119 billion.
Okay, I could see that. I've never been a Pokemon fan. But I can understand. I think
most everyone with a social life would probably say the same. Not a big Pokemon person myself either. Davey, on the other hand, celebrates the entire catalog of Pokemon.
No,
I don't even know what it is.
Just Indigo League. It's like the first 2 seasons.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know what
Hell
it
of
is.
a time.
Is Harry Potter on that list?
Yep.
Harry Potter comes in at 10. Number 10,
Okay.
yeah, $33 billion. So right behind Marvel there. But the one we were really just stooped on was the fact that Hello Kitty was number 2 overall.
Yeah, Hello Kitty number 2, all time.
I can get behind that because there is a very special character in the Hello Kitty lineup. Its name is Keroppi. Anyone know Keroppi?
No.
I'm gonna
frog.
No.
It's the frog. Anyways,
Okay.
Keroppi is my ride or die. I was sleeping with Keroppi for the first, X amount of years of my life. It was my favorite stuffed animal. So I can get behind Hello Kitty being up there.
See, that's what Pokemon was for me. That was like one of the first things as a kid that I actually gravitated towards, as far as like something that I found entertaining was watching on TV. Like I had I got a Pikachu when I was like 4. So I understand where you're coming from there.
I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was a kid too, but I don't collect Ninja Turtles today. So
I don't
there's
have
a difference
them now.
between that.
Yeah, and
Pokemon
another
people.
story, Charlie, that we got into is the fact that Hugh Hefner's son was putting himself on OnlyFans so he could buy a 6-figure Pokemon card. But again, that's a story for another day. But hey, we started in Brazil, and I want to get us back there. So Neymar, famous soccer player, he is from Brazil. Yeah, okay, I made sure on that one.
He is.
He is been given a hall pass, but his hall pass comes with stipulations, Charlie, and those stipulations are from his fiance, who, mind you, is 8 months pregnant at this time, that he must wear a condom and no kissing the other girls on the mouth.
Everything else goes.
Yeah, I'll let you all discuss. Have at it.
Everything else goes. I'm guessing by Charlie's response to the Father's Day stripper romp that we talked about earlier, she would probably not be okay with this. With any future husband of hers.
But listen, I also wouldn't give the hall pass in the first place. This woman is clearly a gold digger. She's with him for one reason, because he's a celebrity, he has tons of money. No chance she would be giving her broke boyfriend a hall pass like this. I mean, she realizes this is a part of the game. You want to be engaged to Neymar, you got to let him do what he wants to do. But I can guarantee you, he is certainly kissing women on the mouth if everything else is going down. So, honey, good luck to you in upholding those rules that you have put out for your cheating fiance.
This woman's name is Bruna Biancardi, and she is a model.
Listen, I'm sure she has tons of diamonds dripping all over her body at all times. I'm sure she drives a nice car. I'm sure she has all the best designer handbags. I'm sure she lives in a beautiful home. I'm sure she's very happy. I mean, this is just kind of her way of exerting a little bit of control over Neymar. But at the end of the day, a cheater is a cheater. So who really cares? Kissing your mouth is the least of your worries.
Yeah, I think that it's probably all. I feel like it's like a trap. I don't think this is totally real, that she's actually doing this. This is a third-party report saying this. I feel like this is almost like a test that she's putting forth with him to see how he responds to
cheats on her. This is not a question. He 1,000%.
Well, of course, probably most international soccer stars do as well. I'm sure.
I mean, she's beautiful though, so good for her.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be in a situation like Owen Wilson and Jason Sudeikis were in the movie Hall Pass, where they actually were really struggling to make things happen. He's probably just got women throwing themselves at him constantly.
Classic movie, one that could be a sequel at some point, but I'm sure they're not going to do that. Another one with Owen Wilson that should be a sequel, Wedding Crashers. That needs to happen. I've heard the rumors of Wedding Crashers too for a while.
Does it need to happen?
Yeah, see, Davey's kind of like this too, where they think you ruined the original if you screw it up with a sequel.
There's a good chance. Wedding Crashers is such a beautiful classic that I think there's no chance you even match its greatness. So I say leave it alone.
Should they make a dodgeball too, Charlie?
Spoiler for everyone who thought it was cool. I'm not. I haven't seen Dodgeball.
That's
so,
one.
So is that a no or?
Well, I don't know because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think
fair.
You probably have better things going on over the weekend, but I would highly recommend watching Dodgeball at some point.
I have it on DVD.
Vince
I'll
Vaughn,
lend
Ben
it to
Stiller.
you.
I watched a documentary last night about people who do like really intense rock climbing expeditions. It's called Meru. It was really good.
What streaming service?
I think it was purchased on Apple, but I could probably get it on Amazon Prime, whatever it is. It was a purchase, but it's kind of similar to Free Solo. You know, the ones where, have you seen those? They're insane. Yeah. This wasn't a solo climb. Like they have ropes and all that, but they did like one of the toughest cliffs. It's up in India in the Himalayan mountains. And it was, oh my God. I'm such a baby. I don't know how they do this, but yeah.
Riley Gaines recently spoke on Capitol Hill, and like clockwork, she's receiving some criticism for stating the obvious. We'll talk about what she had to say and get into that criticism when we come back in the final hour of this Friday show. It's Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted and how
he bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live.
Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown.
People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
We're back. Final hour of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Chad Withrow with you. Jonathan Hutton out on Monday as well. He'll be back on Tuesday. Having a nice little family vacation. We wish him the best and look forward to him coming back to the show. We've got Charlie Arnault with us. She's up in New York. Very special guest host on the show today. Having a good time. Plenty of topics going around right now, and one that you've heard a ton about at OutKick is with Riley Gaines, the former Kentucky swimmer and someone who's advocating on behalf of female athletes right now. And she was actually recently at a Senate Judicial Committee hearing where she was opposing the rewrite of Title IX by the Biden administration that would include transgender athletes. That would be people who could take part in the benefits of Title IX. And look, I've had the same response to these stories throughout. It's been very consistent. And Riley Gaines has said a lot of the same things over and over again and been very consistent in different places. The response and the criticism from a lot of mainstream media has always been the same with Riley Gaines also. But Charlie, before we get into it, I do want to play this video of Riley talking with Senator Josh Hawley from the state of Missouri, talking about her experience when she was forced to compete with Leah Thomas. Here is Riley Gaines with the Senate.
You were talking about just the incredible surprise, shall I say, to put it gently, of finding a biological man, a 6'4" biological man in your locker room and having to accept that without being asked about it, without being told about it even. What was that like for you? Tell us about that.
Again, we only became aware we would be undressing next to a man was when we had to see a man undressing while we were simultaneously undressing. And so I immediately left the locker room and I went up to one of the officials on the pool deck and I said, what are the guidelines to allow a man into our locker room? I know the guidelines for the competition, but what are the guidelines for the locker room? And he so nonchalantly said back, oh, we actually got around this by making locker rooms unisex. And so I'm thinking to myself in these brief moments, first and foremost, you just admitted this is a male by acknowledging how you had to change your rules to make the locker rooms unisex. You acknowledge that we do not share the same sex, first and foremost. Secondly, unisex. Any man could have walked into our locker room, any coach, any official, any man who wanted to would have had full reins to, and bare minimum, we weren't forewarned about it. And that's the traumatizing part. Of course, the experience in and of the locker room itself is traumatizing, but I think for me, it was so easy for them to dismiss our rights to privacy. Senator Durbin, in your opening statement, you had mentioned this rhetoric. It's, you had mentioned that, what message does it send to trans individuals? And my combat to that is, what message does this send to women, to young girls who are denied of these opportunities? So easily their rights to privacy and safety thrown out of the window to protect a small population, protect one group as long as they're happy. What about us? That is the overall general consensus of how we all felt in that locker room.
And Charlie, I thought that question was very well said at the end by Riley Gaines. It seems we've reached a point where it's okay to make someone unhappy or uncomfortable as long as we're appeasing someone else that happens to be one of the smallest of minorities in the country with transgender people, preserve their rights, and their rights also extend to doing things that aren't fair and don't make any sense. As long as we don't upset them, who cares about female athletes? Who cares about women involved? I thought that was very well said by Riley with the question she posed.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the argument all along, is that this is called women's sports for a reason, because they belong to women, and women have been fighting to have an equal right to play sports and have a space that's theirs and feel comfortable in it. And it, belongs to them for so long. And now it just takes a few mediocre male athletes to say that they want to change their identities and identify as a different gender to come in and literally ruin decades and decades of groundwork that has been laid. It's just really ridiculous. And just seeing Leah Thomas in that bathing suit, you just saw the picture up just now, is a very stark reminder of how women and men are completely different biologically. Just the wingspan, the broadness, the height, the strength. It's really just pretty disgusting.
No, I'm completely with you, and she's right about protecting female athletes. And oftentimes, what we don't ask in this country right now is, what's fair? What is fair? What's right in this situation? And this has always been one of those to me, Charlie, that it's very clear what is fair and right. And sometimes the way things have been done for a long time is the right way to do it. Being progressive doesn't mean funneling out of situations that were fair and just and right within the rules just to move on to something else. We've had a separation of men's and women's and boys and girls sports in this country for many, many years. There's a reason for that. It's because it's the right thing to do. And I think we've kind of lost sight in this story of what's right and wrong from some perspectives. And kudos to Riley Gaines, who will join us on Monday on the show, for bringing to light some of these issues.
Yeah, well, this is just one example of the sick agenda of the current administration. It doesn't just pertain to sports. This pertains to the classroom too. I mean, you have now entire school systems that want to do away with the teaching of biology as it's been taught forever. Because at the end of the day, there are only two genders. There's male and there's female, and that's not determined by your feelings or emotions. Or what stage you are in your life. That is determined by your chromosomes, and you can't change those. I just think it's disgusting that we have a group of people who is out to do nothing but indoctrinate our children. And it's just something that I don't see stopping. It's going to keep infiltrating every aspect of our life until we tell these people to shut up, and we get conservatives to start speaking out more.
Well, and look, I don't think this is a conservative liberal issue. I wish it wasn't. It's a human issue. Like I know plenty of.
The problem is that most of the time it's only the conservatives who have most of the common sense now these days.
No, well, conservatives don't want. You're right. Conservatives are the ones who will say it. But I know plenty of liberal people who come up to me and say, by the way, I totally agree with Riley Gaines and that men shouldn't be competing with women, but they feel like they're playing into a conservative right-wing agenda if they say it publicly. But they do believe that.
That's what's crazy about it, though, is because if you identify as conservative today, it doesn't even mean you are a true conservative. It just means you have some common sense, because whereas 5 years ago, a lot of these beliefs that we are debating now, if you would have said, oh, yeah, men and women shouldn't play in the same division, but you also had more left-leaning beliefs, you would be considered probably a moderate or even just left of center, right? It's not like we're talking about some like, oh my God, this is such a conservative right-wing agenda. This is a common sense issue. But now, because everything has gotten so polarizing and things have gotten so extreme, now if you fall on the side of, oh yeah, men and women don't belong in the same athletic space, or, oh yeah, there is only such thing as two genders, actually. How you can identify however you want. No one's saying you can't live your life the way you want. But at the end of the day, there are only two genders. There are only two sexes. And to believe that now is considered to be conservative, which just is indicative of the wild place that our country is in right now.
Well, and we've talked about this woman before, but Nancy R. Moore writes for USA Today. I firmly believe Nancy probably agrees with what we're saying about the separation of men's and women's sports, and that it's not necessarily fair for Leah Thomas to move to women's swimming and to win, where he wasn't winning before on the men's side. But once again, this has become an us versus them type argument. Earlier, she went off in a column about Sam Ponder, saying, well, not necessarily disagreeing with Sam Ponder, but Sam Ponder is only stating these things to mask her transphobia. Well, now Riley Gaines, appearing before the Senate judicial hearing, all Riley Gaines is doing is she's a part of a cottage industry of female media members that's using transgender athletes to become right-wing media celebrities. So now it's not, I completely disagree with you or you're wrong, Charlie. It's, oh, well, you're just doing this for clicks. You're doing this for celebrity, and now you're becoming a celebrity media member because you're saying something that's very honest and true to her based on her experience.
You're preaching to the choir. This is the feedback I've gotten since joining OutKick and Fox, coming from ESPN, where we would never dare speak of anything like this. And that's why it's so insane, because it's just such a common sense issue. Nothing I'm saying is crazy. Nothing I'm saying is controversial. I'm saying that men should not play against women in sports. I'm totally fine with there being a third category if people don't feel comfortable competing against their own gender because they know they won't win. I mean, because otherwise, here's the thing. If you're a man, even if you identify as a woman, you're still a man. So just compete with the men. That doesn't mean you still can't dress up or act like a woman or whatever, live your life the way you want. This is how it goes because you were biologically born this way. You have to compete. But the problem here is they want to win. They want the attention. They can't get the attention or win when they're competing against their biological sex because they're not good at their sport. So they're like, oh, what's a way that I can get attention and win a championship? Oh, I'll become a woman and I'll beat out all the women because it doesn't matter how hard they've worked or how much practice they've had. I'm still going to beat them. Even if I'm, ranked at the bottom of the men's division, I can still beat all of the women and be number one there. I mean, that's all it is.
Well, and it's alarming to me because common sense approach, if you are a reasonable person and you have a reasonable opinion on something and take, that has now been twisted into your reasonable opinion on this, your fact-based opinion is just to mask your hatred or just to mask your phobia about this person or these people or whatever it may be. I think a good example of that's what's going on in Major League Baseball. You alluded to this earlier, Charlie, but with all the Pride Night stuff, right? The Texas Rangers, the one team that's not doing it, that so quickly gets twisted into because you're not honoring this, you hate it. And I just think that's wrong. That's not the truth. Because I choose not to honor or celebrate something is not me saying you're not welcome or you're not a human or you're not entitled to every right in this country that I am, or that you're not able to come out to this baseball game and watch this first-place baseball team. I'm not saying any of that. But we've twisted it somehow to state that, oh, because you're not going to sit there and honor it with a night or a month or whatever it may be, then you must hate this. And I think that's wrong.
It's totally wrong. And I think that's the furthest thing from the truth because, for example, me as a person, I have friends of every single kind. I'm telling you, there is not one person on this earth who identifies as something or other that I don't include in my friend group. Like, obviously, you're not as close as friends with everybody else, but, that has nothing to do with how you identify or what you believe in, what your religion is, what your sex is, what your gender identity is, what your anything is. Like, if you are a good person, I'm cool with you. So it has nothing to do with that, but it's like, that's just like me saying like, hey, why don't the Dodgers do a night recognizing brunettes? Like, it's just, why do we have to recognize you based on your sexual orientation? I don't understand why we're getting into that. Who cares what you want to do in your bedroom? By all means. How you want to dress? Great. Go at it. How you want to talk, how you want to represent yourself. I don't care. But it doesn't mean we should go out of our way to recognize you or celebrate you. I'm not asking anyone to celebrate me for anything that I stand for, whether it be I'm a woman, I'm straight, it doesn't matter. It's just, I think people are just asking for too much. That's the problem. These people are attention seeking. It has nothing to do with anything else.
So, Charlie, what if I told you that the conservatives in America and PETA have one thing in common? They both want to boycott an Anheuser-Busch product. PETA is all over Budweiser right now because of allegedly amputating the tailbones of Clydesdales that they're used with their marketing. Your thoughts on the latest boycott that's going on, that's being urged on by PETA?
So when you say amputating the just like this is just the slogan or the logo.
No, the amputating the tailbones. It's the logo.
What do you mean amputating the tailbones? Like, not in real life. This is like the logo.
No, I think they're amputating the actual tailbones. From what I read, I'm not exactly sure how that happens.
Yeah, how does that happen? Okay, well, first of all, if that is happening, then yes, shame on Anheuser-Busch. Honestly, just one more reason not to drink Bud Light, which I'm already drinking it anyways. So it doesn't really make a difference. But yeah, that's horrible. I definitely do not condone animal abuse, and I'm the biggest dog lover in the world. So this is just one more reason to never drink one sip of Bud Light for the rest of my life. I'm actually happy that they did it. Now no one can justify drinking it or giving them any type of comeback. Boycott forever. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm anti-cancel culture through and through, so I'm anti-boycott through and through. I don't like the Bud Light boycott because I think ultimately it just cost Americans that had nothing to do with that decision, their jobs. Now, the marketing person should have lost her job, and she did, which I'm happy about that because it was a terrible marketing decision with what Bud Light did. But PETA is very good at boycotts. The right could certainly learn a thing or two from
Clydesdales are also
boycotts.
horses. I said I was a dog lover. So
yeah, Clydesdales are horses. Yes, for
yes.
sure.
Okay, so we were wrong there, but yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm a huge so the actual tailbone.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not really sure how that works, but no, I'm listen, you and I have agreed on a lot of things. I disagree with you. I'm all for the boycott. If you're listening, please boycott Bud Light.
We are if you're watching or listening, I urge you to please do whatever the hell you want. And buy whatever you want and do whatever you want. If you don't want to buy
you might be made fun of
because of a marketing decision, have at it. Yeah, and if you're fine being made fun of, have at it. I don't drink Bud Light because I don't like it. So I guess I've always boycotted Bud Light my own way for that reason. But yeah, a lot of craziness going on. I think a lot of these stories show just that. We've got a special guest coming in studio with us next. Have you had the pleasure yet, Charlie, of meeting Mike Gunzelman, the gun show, up in New York when you've been there? He's back and forth between Nashville and New York.
No.
He is an OutKick employee. He will bring the energy. We're going to talk about a number of pop culture issues with guns. Promise he'll bring the energy. It'll be fun. He joins us next in studio. It's Gun Show coming up. This is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
What is your primary complaint when people pop their knuckles?
Primary complaint is chewing with your mouth open. Yuck.
I would say when you're getting off an airplane and people in the back try and sprint to the front, especially like late at night, like you don't have a connecting flight, just wait like everybody else. I'd say that's fine.
Small portions, big bill. Yeah, if the quality's good, it's okay. But if there's small portions and I got a big fat bill, not a thing, you know.
Sun Country Airlines canceling our flight less than 8 hours before we're supposed to leave.
I've never even heard of Sun Country Airlines in my life.
Velcro.
Velcro? Why? What about it?
The sound.
Oh, like nails on a chalkboard for you.
I'm a kindergarten teacher, and to hear that Velcro.
Time to teach them how to tie their shoes.
When they don't cross the road when no cars are driving.
They're just waiting for the light?
Yeah, like a normal person.
Yeah, you got to break the rules a little bit.
We're right from New York City. We know how to walk.
Really upset. Ben Jones is no longer with the Titans, but more importantly, I'm upset the Titans didn't draft a wide receiver in the top 2 rounds. We need receivers, guys. Come on, tighten up.
So what do you think about Will Levis? Was that a good move or a bad move?
Ooh, that's a tough call. Time will tell. But I think we needed a receiver more.
Smack their gum. Chew with their mouth open and smack their gum.
Okay.
That with chips and everything else, yeah.
Liars.
Liars. Okay. Has anyone lied to you recently?
No.
Have you lied?
Always.
One of the biggest pet peeves is not knowing your manners. Like, not having respect or thank you, sir, ma'am.
My biggest pet peeve is when you don't push your chair in after you leave a table. That's my biggest pet peeve. Really is.
So like when people want to speak to you and they're like you to me, but they start walking out of the other room into different rooms and they keep talking like, I am supposed to understand. I can't hardly understand people when their back is turned to me and when they're not talking right at me. So when you're getting into different rooms and you keep talking like, yeah, blah, 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 it must be my dog talking to me.
There's a crane over every building. There's a truck.
There's a hole, something. Yeah. So let's get the streets fixed and get those things done. Time's wasted. Let's go.
A dirty house.
dirty house? Like, are you a shoes off at the front door kind of guy?
Up front, yes, ma'am.
I hate it when centre backs don't bat the odd one. Do you know,
What?
when the centre backs go up to try and catch the ball all the time, they should bat the odd one.
You know, siblings are pet peeves, to be honest with you. You know, just looking at him, he's a pet peeve.
I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I like to get along with others. I kind of leave people in their place. When people don't follow the social construct, it really upsets me. Example, when you stand up on an airplane, right when it lands, and then try to push past people down the line. You know what orders you're supposed to go in. That's part of the social contract. When you're grocery shopping and you have your cart and you don't take it back to the cart delivery spot, but you just leave it by there beside the parking spot, taking up someone else's spot, violating the social contract. Do what you're supposed to. Yeah, do your civic duty. Follow through with what your parents told you to do.
We're back. Final hour, final couple segments of the week on a Friday. Hot mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton is not here, but guess who is here right now? My man, Gun Show. Mike Gunzelman. We don't do enough high fives on the show. Let's do that one more time. Just to get the high fives going. That felt good.
Let's go. Hutton, you jealous?
Friday.
How about that? That's a good one.
Hutton somewhere right now spiritually is doing a high five, but he's not physically a part of the high five with us. Mike Gunzelman, OutKick contributor, in studio with us. Very special guest co-host Charlie Arnault. She's up in New York right now with us. Charlie, Gun, say hello to each other. I don't think you've ever officially met.
What's going on?
Well, we haven't officially met in person, but I feel like,
I feel like we're like Zoom buddies.
A very strong kinship to you.
Yes.
So.
Guns is everyone's friend except Kyrie Irving's.
Yes.
Everyone else, he's a friend to them. Everyone except Kyrie Irving. What is the latest on the basketball game that may or may not take place?
The latest is that, listen, we're still hoping for early August, depending on how long Kyrie plays in the Drew League for. But, I was here about a week ago. I have started training. Do you see a difference? Do you see a difference in the bicep, the form?
I'm seeing like it's, I don't know that I'm seeing a difference strength-wise.
Right.
But I do feel like you've always been very thin and fit.
Right.
But I'm even seeing more of a tightness.
Yes.
There's even a better tightness to you right now, Guns, than there was before.
Yeah.
Yes, you're tightening up.
Well, I can tell you this. The confidence level will be very high for when I do eventually meet Kyrie Irving. One-on-one, by the way, in person. So stay tuned for all that. We're going to have a lot of content, of course, across all the socials and more. As it's, listen, I'm doing this for all the Cavs fans, the Celtics fans, the Brooklyn Nets fans that have been screwed over by Kyrie throughout the years. Let's go.
Hey, Charlie, by the way, I have to commend you on your ability because I have the same ability working in media and working on shows for a long time to eat during the commercial break like a champ.
Hell yeah.
Like I see you on there, and I was trying to give you a thumbs up. You didn't see me, but I don't even know what you're eating. Like I can't even see it at all. But I see you chewing, and by the time the camera comes on, nothing in your teeth, ready to go. Chewing is done every time. Very impressive.
I reached a point like right at the turn of the 4 to 5 o'clock hour. I guess it would be in New York time. So for you, 3 to 4 o'clock hour. My brain started getting foggy, and I was like, if I don't eat something, my energy level is just not going to be where it needs to be. So I just started scarfing down the remainder of my chicken sandwich, and I have some teriyaki beef jerky here as well. So I'm living large, fellas.
What you're finding out is 3 hours is a long time on a show. Like
3 hours
it's
is a long time.
It's a marathon. I hosted a show for 4 hours at one point in my career and did a 5th hour later in the day.
Oh my God.
But 3 hours is still a long time. 4 hours is an eternity.
Yeah.
2 hours
3
feels
hours is
like
long.
the sweet spot. into the third hour, you're like, oh my God, like, am I gonna make it?
Yeah.
What am I?
1 hour to me would be ideal,
Yeah.
but you know, yeah, 2 hours, sure. 2 hours is sweet. 3 hours is a lot, no doubt.
One of my previous media jobs, it was a 3-hour show, and for some reason, the board op and engineer, so everybody that works in media and radio, those are always interesting human beings, needless to say. And this person had an obsession with fish and would microwave cod and salmon almost weekly. And we would be on the air and be like, oh God, no, what's happening? Who's microwaving cod? And it was a morning show. So it would be like 8:10 in the morning and we'd be like, oh no,
Person's a sadist.
That's like the biggest faux pas, right? I learned that the hard way. I actually was the culprit once. When I was still working at WWE, I had to go in one day to their studios up in Stamford, Connecticut. And I brought fish with me and I heated it up in the microwave and it made the whole place reek. And people were like, who put the fish in the microwave? And I, obviously admitted just because I didn't want to be a jerk about it. And they were like, yeah, can you not do that? That's like kind of
again.
like an office rule. You don't heat up fish at work. And I was like, honestly, I'm so sorry. I had no idea, never again. And to this day, it sticks with me. So
it's like eating like curry or something on like an airplane right next to somebody.
Yeah,
it's just like, oh God.
It's a special person that'll actually tell you that, right? That has the fortitude to go up and say, this is not something you do. Right, you shouldn't do that. Did anyone at your old show go up to the guy and say, man, let's not do that?
It was said plenty of times, like, dude, really? But you know what? That only emboldened him. He was one of those people. When you say something, at least Charlie was like, oh, you know what? I apologize. I wasn't even thinking. This person, it emboldened them.
Oh, no.
And that was bad.
I had a guy that I was a coworker of mine who I had a show at a seafood restaurant, like a player show.
Oh, God.
But this guy, so there was fish everywhere. So that to begin with. This guy put so much vinegar on his fried fish. He would get fish and chips. And I'm talking just drown these fish fillets in vinegar to the point where you couldn't come within 10 feet of his table while he was eating this.
Oh, my God.
And I'm thinking, if something smells that strong, how on earth can it be pleasant to taste? Like, if we're all smelling that, like, how can that be good to the taste?
Right.
If you've got that much vinegar on something. So we've all been there.
We've all been there.
We've all been there. We've all heard the Beatles, right? I think, Charlie, you're aware of this band from Liverpool, right? The Beatles?
I'm definitely aware.
They've had some hits over the years, right?
Yeah,
Guns?
couple, yeah. Just a couple.
Maybe they'll have some new hits or maybe some old hits played on stage. Can you explain?
Yeah, so obviously we live in the world of not only social media, but the AI, the algorithm, artificial intelligence runs and rules all. And now we're getting to the point where, are we going too far? So I did a story, it's available on OutKick.com, that Paul McCartney and a couple of the producers and engineers, they found an old recording from John Lennon. All right. There was rumors and there was an idea that the Beatles were going to do a couple more songs that were going to be released later on. Obviously, John Lennon passes away in 1980. The Beatles broke up way before that, but they continued still working on music. The rest of them did except John. Well, John laid down some vocals. They were pretty not great high quality. Until 2023 comes and AI has enhanced the vocals and it's going to be released on an upcoming song by quote-unquote the Beatles, because it is all four of them from back in the day. Do we like this? Do we hate this? From the holograms. Remember Tupac coming out on the holograms? We don't even need CGI or holograms now. It's the AI now. Do we how far is too far? And do the Beatles really need another song? You think 40 top 1 hits would be enough? Like, come on.
Charlie, I feel like, first off, it's going to be a top seller.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to buy these songs, album, however they package it. People are going to buy it. I am, though, uncomfortable with, first off, I'm uncomfortable when I watch the movies where they de-age people.
Yes.
Like Indiana Jones is coming back, and there's a whole couple sequences in this movie, apparently, where he's like Indiana Jones or Harrison Ford from 1980, and that's his face in it, but he's acting. It's very odd to me, that whole thing.
Right.
I do think that there are some ethical problems with bringing back entertainment acts post-death because of AI. Where do you fall on this, Charlie?
Yeah, I think there was also the discussion of, you're talking about de-aging. I know they have, some actors now are already entering into contracts with movie production companies where they're able to use their, I guess,
Their
name,
image.
like this, all of it,
Yeah.
for years to come, even post-mortem, which is really creepy to me
Yes.
because I'm like, listen, there are some actors and celebrities, and in this case, musicians that I really enjoy, but once they're dead, let's just celebrate their career as it was.
Right.
I'm sure there will be plenty more other actors and musicians and whatnot to come along. Although I will say, like, nothing is as ever good as it used to be. Like, movies aren't as good as they used to be. Songs aren't as good as they
Right.
used to be. But that's the beauty of it. It's like you etch that in time and then you let go of it. And then we remember it for as great as it was, because just like we were talking, what were we just talking about? Chad, when we were saying it's, the movie, like the sequels to the movies, right?
Yeah.
Like Wedding Crashers, like just leave it alone.
Yes.
Because once you do something so well, it is stupid to try and recreate or to prolong it, because a lot of times it's not just as good, and then it tarnishes the greatness that it once was. So I say just leave it alone. I don't care how many people would love to hear it. The Beatles were great. Let's leave it at that and move on, to the less greats, and then we can actually appreciate them even more.
Totally with you. And Guns, I'm pro humans working jobs.
Yes.
Right? Like, I feel like I'm a modern day FDR with a New Deal, right? I want to create a workforce and create jobs. And I'm very uncomfortable with ChatGPT or other AI devices just doing humans' jobs where we could be paying a human being to do that job. And now you're going to tell me that 30 years from now, we're going to watch Kirk Douglas and Jimmy Stewart and Tom Cruise star in a movie together.
Right.
They're going to take actors.
As if they're 30
this is
years
where
old.
we're going, Charlie.
As
They're
if
going to
they're
take
30.
actors from different eras that didn't live and work at the same time. And through AI, they're going to star in a new movie together.
And we're all going to have no jobs.
And it's going to take jobs from actual artists, of actors of their time, and no one's going to have a job anymore. And that is the scary future that we're looking at. I don't know if you guys watch Black Mirror on Netflix.
Oh, I love Black Mirror.
It's coming to fruition. It
So
really is.
the sixth season just dropped this past weekend.
It did?
Yes. And there's 5 episodes. And the first
Wait,
episode,
where?
Charlie, you brought it up, and it's very timely on Netflix. The first episode is called Joan is Awful. And I don't want to give too much away, but the whole season is a take on Netflix. Like, Netflix produced it, but it's something called Streamberry, but it has a Netflix sound.
Right.
This Joan is someone who goes home and starts a Netflix show titled Joan is Awful, and it's the image of Salma Hayek playing her throughout her day. They've already caught up with everything she did that day bad in her life, and the world is watching everything she's done and knowing it's her. And that's the premise of the show, but it has other famous actors in it that in this fictional world, they promise their image, signed it away, and they're using them on these different shows and stuff they don't want to be doing.
It's
scary.
We're trying to. The thing
We're
is,
not that far off is the scary part of it.
Can I be honest? I just muted you for your explanation because I didn't want to have any spoilers. So I just muted you and waited until you were done talking, and now I'm back.
Well, it was just, it doesn't really spoil. It goes from there. Like, there's a lot of twist in it.
When
but
you start doing
that's
this,
the
though,
premise.
it's chasing, it's trying to relive that, and you never can, which is why sequels are really never better. If they do remakes, they're never really better
Rocky
than the original
IV would like a
ones.
word, though.
Like, besides Rocky IV, it took how many of them to actually...
Godfather Part 2, I could argue, also a little bit better than the first.
But
I also like the Saw movies, but
it's a Scary Movie 8 probably didn't need to be made.
Like,
you know what I mean?
I mean, I think we're talking about a different... When you're talking about an original comedy that was of its time, that we all remember and we're very fond of.
Zoolander 2 didn't need to be made. There wasn't a need
you're
for
right.
an Anchorman 2. Dumb and Dumber 2, Dumb and Dumberer, the third one, please,
Didn't
for the love of God.
Didn't need to happen, but...
Well,
Make
here's
as many
what's gonna
Mission
happen.
Impossibles as you want, Tom Cruise. Like, that's
There you go.
great. When it's a franchise that it's the same kind of premise, but in
when you
different
say
settings,
that, though,
it's
when,
entertaining.
When you bring up the word franchise, that's what's happening right now. Because these companies, and whether it's ChatGPT and the likeness, and all of a sudden, like, these AI is like, there's songs being put out there imitating, literally reusing people's voices that never gave them, permission to do so. But there's money behind it. Now the Grammys are trying to get involved. Now they have to go through this there's a big debate happening with the Grammys right now as to, are you allowed to nominate a song that was made by AI? That's where we're coming from. And guess what? Your AI can be done in a quick second, and that gets rid of your engineers, your producers. There's your jobs. And it's going that way because there's a dollar figure behind it to be made, but not to the actual humans like us.
This feels like when people tried to start, talking about auto-tune and how it wasn't real music. It's like, no, T-Pain, creative genius, but this may be taking it a step too far.
Yeah.
It scares me. It's anything that eliminates humans working in
all about
jobs. I'm very much
Pro-humans.
I'm pro-human. Look, if I ran
Not
for
robots.
office,
Yeah.
I would. It'd be my new deal. Like,
The
I am for humans having jobs.
The robots will not take
Although
over.
I will say, this is an ongoing theme, Chad, as you can tell. I think an AI president would serve us better than our current one in office, but
Possibly.
but
I mean, and we, honestly, that may happen in the future. The way we're headed
You know
right
what,
now. Let's take
Well,
the
right
best
now, you can
qualities
have
of
an
all the best
AI
presidents and put them together, and that's our next president.
God.
You can have an AI boyfriend or girlfriend. I just saw someone is now in a relationship. They fell in love with this AI creation, for the past few years, and now they're like in a relationship. So eventually they'll be watching AI movies with their AI significant others. So this is literally, when I say this, I'm saying it in a comical manner, but I'm no joke. Like, this is the world we are looking at living in probably not too far along. And it's absolutely terrifying.
It's frightening. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you're going to a NASCAR?
Yes, I will
race
be at
on
NASCAR
Sunday?
this coming Sunday, covering it for OutKick.
You don't strike me as a NASCAR guy.
I don't strike myself as a NASCAR guy either. So, am I allowed to wear skinny jeans there? What is the attire I have to wear?
I think you should wear like the one of the huge jackets that have all the sponsors over
I think
it.
I should too.
The whole time, like get really hot.
I'm
in
actually
there,
looking
too.
forward to
You
it,
wear
though.
just like a cutoff tank top. You've been working on those guns. Wear the cutoff.
You know what?
Jean
I
shorts,
haven't gone to the gym.
cut off
Yeah.
jean shorts,
Yeah.
cut off tank top.
I'm actually looking forward to it. There's going to be a lot of celebs. We're going to be covering for OutKick and like doing some great stuff. And like just to be able, I'm told that there's, I don't know if you've been to one, but I'm told there's no experience like a live NASCAR race. That like the crowd is just wild.
Look, man, I'm from the South, and my friends always tell me that. I've covered NASCAR events. There's far better events. I'm not a big NASCAR guy. Like, I think that's just a lie that you've been told.
I don't know.
I'm sure going to like
covered
Talladega and partying is fun.
Right.
But you'll do a great job. Just wear the jean shorts.
Follow the gun show. Follow OutKick. I got you covered. My
One more
man,
high
here
five
we
for
go.
the
Good
road.
one. Don't blow
One more
it.
high five for the road. Oh.
There we go. Hear that snap.
The electricity. Feel the energy. Feel the energy.
on a
Never
Friday.
lacking energy with guns. We got one more segment left. We're going to give, actually, Charlie is going to give Davey some dating advice when we come back.
Can't miss
This
that.
is
Let's
Hot Mike
go.
with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And
I mean,
what he reposted and how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
when you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Final segment of our 3-hour show. 15th hour of the week. We thank you if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you consume the show on one of our fine radio stations. We appreciate you. It's been a very fun week. Big thanks to everyone in studio, our entire crew that helps out and really gets the job done for us every week as well. I'm Chad Withrow. Jonathan Hutton out today. He'll be back on Tuesday, out on Monday as well. He's on a family retreat. We wish him a good time this weekend. Charlie Arnault, who I mentioned in the last segment, is the fastest commercial break eater I've seen, maybe next to me. I'm right there with her in terms of speed of getting the job done, eating something during a break. But Charlie was very impressive. Been very impressive joining us today as well. Very special guest co-host. Charlie, 3 hours is a long time, right? But we're here. We're at the finish line now. We're so close.
My hunger it just skyrocketed about an hour ago, and now I just feel the need to keep going. And my jerky is very delicious. So yeah, I actually thought about it for a second when we were in the commercial break, because I forget that even though we're in break, everyone can still see me who's on the show.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, literally no manners, just stuffing it into my mouth. But, thank you so much for recognizing.
It was very speedy. It was very impressive. You also, you had the neck problem last time you joined us.
Yes.
Remember, you had something wrong with your neck.
Yes.
And there was one point during the break that you were like doing a stretch, like with your neck and your back. And I had to look up, and I think I just saw like elbow. But you were doing something that I couldn't physically do, contorting yourself in a way. And we all had to kind of say, is like, what is happening right now? Like you were doing some sort of stretch during a break that was also impressive that I just brought up now. I didn't bring up then. But the eating, also very impressive. But I appreciate you filling in today. And I know we'll have a good time on Monday as well. Davey Hudson, he's hoping to have a good time this weekend. He's got a big date coming up. We're going to have
I can't wait.
dating advice for Davey. I think that Charlie is going to be way better at this than me. So I will give her the floor for the first response to these questions. Davey, you need some help this weekend. Can you explain the situation?
Yeah, so Charlie, been with OutKick for about a year now, moved to Nashville. First year, really just wanted to focus on the job myself. and I kind of waited on getting into the dating scene. Granted, all I did was drink a lot of beer and put on a lot of weight, so it didn't really do well there. So now I'm getting back on the
You're
dating
well
scene.
set up for someone to find you very attractive.
Yeah, he was working on himself the entire time, though. Very big to work on
It's
yourself.
also, I've also just learned Nate Bargatze, good friend of the show. He's got a great joke. If you also just tell people you once weighed 300 pounds, they're like, wow, you look good for a guy who used to weigh 300 pounds. So that's one I like to go with as well. But anyway, I do have a date tomorrow. And we'll I've been talking with Hutton and Chad about it, and Hutton gave me some tips because it's actually, it's in a city that Hutton's familiar with and that I haven't done a lot. Granted, I got to drive a little bit, and I'm already a little frustrated about that, but that's neither here nor there.
He's got to drive like 30 minutes. Not even that, maybe 25 minutes.
Where is it?
It's
a town close to
Murfreesboro.
Nashville.
It's not too far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
No, it's not like I'm like. Trust me, I'm not making like a
He's not
multi-hour
driving to
excursion.
DC or anything. Yeah, it's close.
Yeah.
Listen, I know a guy who like recently went on a date with someone in Europe, and I was like, "Are you out of your mind?" I'm like, "You knew that wasn't going to work, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, well, I was on the way back to the U.S. anyway, so I figured why not."
So hold on. Was in Europe and stopped off somewhere else in Europe for a date?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so it wasn't like he flew out to Europe, but it was one of those things. I'm like, why would you accept a date with someone who lives on a different continent? And he was like, well, I didn't know. Like,
I can tell you one reason.
It sounds expensive.
Well, and
there's
you know
one
what's
reason
funny?
you accept that
Chad,
date on your way back to the States.
No, Chad, and listen, I specifically asked, I'm like, so this date,
how did it
end? And he goes, exactly how you would think it would. And I was like, okay, well, I support you then.
Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished for that man.
So,
Davey, continue.
Yes, but Charlie, so I kind of came up with some questions. I wanted to get your thoughts on them. Obviously, just going into it, I will say there was another girl that probably people are asking about. We made some jokes about it on the show. That she and I were talking for a little bit, but she also had 2 kids, and like they were really all about me going down that road, and I was like, I don't know. But for those who are wondering,
we really want Davey to be a stepdad. That's what we're saying. We really think he should take that step.
She did just stop responding to me, and the only logical conclusion I can come up with is that she died. So we'll just go ahead and move on.
Definitely died.
I didn't know this development. So the mom stopped responding?
Yeah, I don't know. She agreed to the place and time.
This was an old fling, though. Their new fling you're going to Murfreesboro for. And what's the question? What's the plan?
Yeah. So actually, first off, should I just start with a compliment from the beginning and I'll let you know that like I'm an excellent liar. So even if it's not true, like what's one that you just find flattering that I can just go ahead and just throw that out there as soon as I meet her?
I mean, okay. So here's my thing. Just play it super cool. I hate when guys come on really strong or like act stupid or like lame. Like honestly, if a guy walks in and is like, "Hey, you look really nice," I'm like, "Thank you so much." Like no woman does not like to be told that she looks nice. Saying you look beautiful, that feels like too much to like write me someone, but like, "Hey, so nice to meet you. You look really nice. I'm super excited to meet you." Easy, just casual. That's how I would lead. And I feel like I think for men.
May I jump in?
Yes.
So tell me if I'm wrong here,
hold on
Charlie.
one second, Chad. Tyler, make sure you're jotting all this down for me.
Yeah, let's have a note taker in here. I would say something very specific. Like you need to play it cool. But if you're going to give a compliment, not even just like you look great, like specific, like comment on her necklace or her haircut style, shirt, something.
Don't listen to him. No, it's too much. Listen, like
conflicting reports.
I think if you like are sitting down and like you're really like just chatting and you're like, "I really like this," it's kind of like almost like an observant comment. But like right off the bat, like right when she walks in, you're like, "I like your shoes." She'd be like, "Okay, relax, buddy." Like just an over. Like
it doesn't even right off the bat.
Yeah, I've seen Legally Blonde. I know
really
what you would probably assume then.
What if he said, "I really like your look, like your style"?
Love your look, love your style.
Is that the same as you look nice?
No, what? Just that's not Just you look nice. You look great.
Just listen to Charlie, Davey. Don't disregard everything I'm saying. Is what we're saying right now.
Okay.
What's your next question?
Just play it cool because women we are interesting beings. We don't like when you're too nice. We don't like when you're rude, but we don't like when you're too nice. So it's like you got to play it cool. And then once we determine that we like you, then you can start coming on strong with the compliments and we will eat them all up. But if you come on too strong right away, we're like, okay, like relax, buddy. So that's what I'm saying. Come and chill. But
so
yeah, just be yourself. You know what I mean? Like
well, that's what usually gets me in trouble. And I guess I can probably explain why here in a second. But I did have some questions. Well, really, if I had to, I'm trying to think of a good example I could give. So have you ever been to like Jamaica or country in the Caribbean?
I have.
Okay, so I think I'm like Jamaica in a way, where it's like I'm fun when you're on the resort for like 4 days, but once you really like get off course and start to go into the country, you realize there's some serious problems there.
You don't leave the resort.
You think you're in like having first world problems at the resort, and then you venture out and you realize you're in a third world country. That is knowing Davey for more than 4 days is what he's trying to explain.
There's a reason the segment I host is called Let's Get Weird. But anyway, so here are the questions I have. I'm just going to rattle off through these, and we can go through them one by one. Starters off, what's your favorite Matthew McConaughey role? I really like that one. Number 2, how many people do you think the Clintons have killed? 3, conversation on time travel. 4, where does Creed rank on your all-time greatest bands list? That's a big mine. One of the best parts about living in Nashville is any given day I can wake up and step outside and there's a chance I see Scott Stapp. And then number 5, Earth-altering events. So, you know, like the Yellowstone supervolcano, like if that erupts, like we're pretty much all done for. But, you know, I asked that question because it does give me a good idea into how they would be in survival situations like the apocalypse. And you want to find a good partner for that because I can pull my own weight, but I'm probably not going to elevate somebody else to be better. So that's the reasoning behind that one. And, you know, I mean, like just normal stuff like that.
Was there a question in there?
I was just listening off the topic. Well, they're more just the topics to then get into deeper diving on the questions.
You know, I think after a few drinks, those questions could become appropriate. Don't ask them.
I've quit drinking. Well,
Charlie,
at least in Middle Tennessee.
Do you like questions about you? Like if you're on a date and someone's just asking you a lot of questions about your upbringing and your job and this and that, like if someone's interviewing you, you don't like that.
Don't ask me anything about my job, please. I work so much. The last thing I want to do is talk about my job. And especially because knowing my job, sometimes I'm a little like, are you on this date with me because you like me or because you like my job? So if someone comes in hot, listen, when I used to work for WWE, well, as you know, I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners can understand if they are at all a wrestling fan. Wrestling fans are literally insane about wrestling. So if you are an undercover wrestling fan and you would be on a date with me and I just would know, and then you start asking me about like, oh, who's your favorite interview? Who's this? I'm like, you know what? This date in my mind, I will be polite, but it's over. So yeah, I don't like all the questions about me. I'm like, I don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. Let's talk about fun stuff. Like, where do you like to travel to? What are your hobbies? That kind of stuff is fine, like getting to know each other. But I don't want to talk about work. And no offense, but I also don't want to hear about your work. I don't want to hear about like what, you know, documents you looked at earlier in the day or
TPS reports,
what cases you're working on or any of that like boring stuff. Like what numbers you're crunching or who cares?
What if your hobby is Pokemon? And your guy on the date starts talking about that, like
that's
Davey
not a
might,
hobby. I know stories about a lot of random things. I again, like I said, again, like I would just be bringing my knowledge of 5-year-old me with that, and I don't feel like that's a good strategy, Chad.
No,
I could be wrong.
No, you never want the girl you're on a date with to think of you as a 5-year-old when you're on the date. That's not the vibe you're going for sure.
Yeah, here's the thing though. At the end of the day, if you can't be yourself, this is not someone probably it's going to get too far with anyways. So I always say like just be yourself, and if they don't like you or, you know, they find you to be unattractive for whatever reason, then I don't really want to waste more time with them anyways. So I say go for it.
Okay.
Bring out the Pokemon.
Yeah, probably. That one, I wasn't going to go that route, but I mean, I don't know if those questions, after I said them, I was like, you know what, those might actually be better suited for the second date, but.
Yeah, it depends how many drinks in you are. If you want, like, what, you know, there gets to a certain point when you consumed a certain amount of alcohol where conversations start taking weird twisted directions. And I usually is a lot of fun. And honestly, even if I'm on a date with someone that I don't particularly like love, you know, sometimes like weird conversations like are the most fun ones.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know, you start to do those dive down the rabbit hole. No, I get you.
Yeah.
Any other questions you have, David?
I'm sending you like lots of positive vibes. I'm really excited for this date. I can't wait to get the updates because by Monday when I'm back on, we will have them.
So
we'll know if there's trip number 2 to Murfreesboro.
Allie, our resident woman, always commenting in the YouTube chat, says approaching women with confidence is a lost art. Just don't overthink it unless you're on a hot mic segment, which we're doing right now, which she understands. So that's the advice from Allie, Davey.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, really the only show I would get into outside of Stranger Things. That's another thing, Charlie, like that you missed. But if I recommend a show for someone, like I want to watch that. I don't want to be having people ask me questions about the show while
He doesn't want
to
Netflix and chill. He wants to actually Netflix and Netflix.
We're watching the show
and
for a
Davey
reason.
gets thrown off if a woman wants to do other things.
No, I don't get
and
thrown
it
off. I
annoys
just
him,
don't
and he-
want to participate.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't want to participate at all.
Yeah,
if that's on the table.
I
can get behind
compartmentalize a lot of stuff in my brain, so it's like one task straight ahead. It's
But here's the thing:
multitasking.
if
the
you're
whole
planning
thing.
on Netflix and chilling, you should put on something you've already seen, and it doesn't
Oh,
matter.
that's the great thing about Stranger Things, though. Is every time
to.
you do. Okay, well, okay, Stranger Things is out. All right. No, Charlie, these are all great tips and pointers. I will definitely take those with me. I can guarantee you for the first 10 minutes I can follow it. Track record after that, kind of like a, slowly going downhill. So
Davey,
we'll see what happens.
Hey, Davey, good luck. Let's recap on Monday. Let's
Yes,
recap
sir.
the date on Monday. Charlie, you're back in on Monday, right?
Yep.
You'll be co-hosting on Monday. Thank you for filling in today. Really appreciate it. Tons of fun. We will we'll recap Davey's date on Monday. That'll be exciting. Riley
Yes.
Gaines will join us also. Enjoy your weekend. I know you're working a lot, but hopefully not too much work this
I
weekend.
will see everyone on Fox and Friends at 7:40 Eastern talking about, like we mentioned, the UFC fight potentially going down between Zuckerberg and Musk. So see you then.
I was going to ask you what you were doing next, and you filled in perfectly right there with what it is. Cheers to Charlie. Cheers to you. It's our time to cheers the weekend. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. It's been a fun week on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. We'll be back on Monday on the OutKick Network.